Now recording.
Oh,
Right.
there it is.
Welcome in, folks, to the Sunday Night Club with me, Tony Higginson. Our very special guest, our star guest once a month, who takes us on a musical odyssey back in time up to whatever the modern day becomes for the person in question. And there's lots of changes tonight. As we go genies to starmen to odysseys to dukes to, all sorts of scary monsters and such like. Hunky-dory and all that.
Good.
Hunky-dory and all that. Mannish Boys, yes.
Brilliant.
We're doing the Davy Jones's, third locker or whatever it is. So Derek Shelmerdine from rockandrollunraveled.com, folks. Follow him, find him. And if he holds his book up, it's behind his head. I can see it.
That's right.
There. You need to get a copy of this book. And Paul, we'll have to find a way of getting Derek to read you a page or something each week. Derek,
Take a long
when
time.
You're not doing anything on Monday. Could you start on A? Could you do a letter a week for Paul so he can station to station? And yeah. So just before we get fully started, and welcoming Heather and Jason are going to be tuning away a few Bowie songs or songs connected to Bowie, I believe, are we, guys?
Yeah.
We are, yeah. So
hopefully,
Maybe
you are, and Andy's going to play a couple live. If Dave Holden appears, he might play one live.
Dave Holden, I remember him.
Yeah, no, he goes to an open mic every other Sunday. So, there's good things and bad things about which day of the week we join on. And obviously, if Paul and Zoe and Macca have got any, Macca might have met Bowie back in the day. He might have. And the one we made in Bee Gees
is outside my experience.
Might have had a tight trousers moment with them at some point. I
Oh,
think lots of people had tight trousers moments with David Bowie, actually. Tight, yeah. One of them videos he's in, he wears when he had his hair long, he had very tight trousers. Yeah.
That's right.
So anyway, I'm just going to play a little bit of probably my favourite David Bowie moments. There we have it.
What an interesting choice.
I like a lot of Bowie, but I love the production of that song. I think it really lifted what he was doing. Nile Rodgers, yeah. I said that to Derek. I said I had a feeling it was Nile Rodgers. But when that came out, when you heard that, there was just something about the production and the sound that said quality.
And didn't Nile Rodgers do China Girl as well?
Yeah, I think that's on the same album. Yeah.
Great song. Great song.
Yeah, there are probably more seminal songs by Bowie than that. Derek's picked The Laughing Gnome as his favourite blessing.
Oh, well done, Derek. I hope you would.
You could not have a Bowie show without the Laughing Gnome.
He must be succumbing to heat stroke. So anyway, folks, welcome in. Thank you for those of you who are here live in the Zoom room. Anyone watching us on Facebook? We do actually put the link to Zoom in the events tab on the Tony Higginson page. I used to put it up on the Beyond Books Media page, but I've got more friends than I've got followers. So the Tony Higginson page is slightly more popular, shall we say. Don't know what the difference is really, because it's me under two different names. But no, David Bowie, total icon. Derek's going to start off in a minute. He's always got something good to say. And he's always picked some good music. And I think he might have done one of his lovely little montage things. Have you done a montage?
Absolutely. Little PowerPointers, some of the things we'll be talking about.
Right. So you should be centre screen and co-hosting and all that. Have you practiced the share sound and optimize button? Because that's where I usually go wrong.
Double click on there.
Oh, this is working. This is looking good.
Good.
Slideshow from the beginning. Always a good place to start.
Yay.
There we go. And we're off. Can you hear me?
We can. We can hear you, and we can see young
David Bowie
when he went in for a face painting competition.
Yeah, one of the very many faces of David Bowie. He's an interesting character. He beavered away for a decade before he found any fame. I thought it'd be interesting just to have a quick taster of some of the music that could be heading our way. The Conrads was the first band he was in, 62, played sax then. In 63, they made a recording. Can you hear that? And then for the rest of the 1960s, David Bowie was in a whole load of different bands. He tried acting, he tried mime, he tried theatre, and then he became a one-hit wonder with Space Oddity.
Ground control to Major Tom. 7, 6. Commencing countdown, engines on. 3, 2. Check ignition, 1. And may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirt you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door.
Yeah, and he stepped through that door, and it was from 1969 to 1972 before he actually had another hit. And that's when Bowie became famous in 1972. And the first hit that really set the road was Starman.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He told me, let the children use it, let the children use it, let all the children boogie. Switch on the TV, we may pick him up on channel 2.
Fabulous.
I mean, that is a great track. That's really where it all, well, that is very much where it all started. But a quick look back across the 60s. I mean, the Conrads we just heard from back in 63. And then he was with the Lower Third, the Manish Boys. And that only takes us up through to 1966. He then joined a band called Riot Squad, very respected R&B band at the time. He wasn't a founding member or anything. And Mitch Mitchell, drummer of Jimi Hendrix fame, was in that particular band. He was also at the bottom there in a group called Feathers, Turquoise, that was very gone into sort of mime and folk. And he released his first album on Derham. And that's when he sounded like Anthony Newley. That's a sort of little known era, unbelievably like Anthony Newley. David Bowie, you've got a fair dues to the lad. I mean, he tried just about every genre that was available, and then some. And then, of course, he had the big hit with Space Oddity. And luckily for David Bowie, glam rock came along, because you can see the Manifold sold the world there, the androgynous look. And the top picture there is a group called Hype. That's Tony Visconti on bass in the background. And they famously played a few gigs and got absolutely no reaction whatsoever. And he even recorded the follow-up single to Space Oddity. It was actually The Prettiest Star with Mark Bolan on lead guitar. And that's failed to break in. But then in came glam rock, suited Bowie absolutely down to the ground. So then, you know, you've got the whole Ziggy Stardust era, Diamond Dogs, great album. And Rebel Rebel, the single lead, is generally considered to be the end of Bowie's glam rock, well, end of the glam rock era, basically, but very much the end of Bowie's glam rock. And he had a big fall. We'll talk all about this later. But he had a big falling out with Tony Visconti, manager, producer. And they got back together with David live. And then the alter ego of the Thin White Duke sort of appeared around this sort of time. And he recorded a single with John Lennon as well, Fame, which got quite interesting. And then the Berlin trilogy, he was very into coke at this particular time, and he decided he'd go off and live in Berlin rather than LA, and famously recorded a trilogy of albums. He also got acclaim for his portrayal of the Elephant Man as well in New York Theatre. He was in that for a little while. And then an interesting time, I mean, basically, he did the Serious Moonlight tour, and that was his first tour for 5 years. And sort of in the middle of this, he did the Tin Machine, a couple of albums with them, and that's quite an interesting story because he nearly went broke. So that's when the whole Sound and Vision thing came to refill the coffers, as they say. I think that's a really interesting part of David Bowie's story, to be honest. And then towards the end there, Reality, that was 2003. He had a heart attack following that, and his next album was The Next Day, a decade later. And you can see that's the Heroes cover with the word Heroes crossed out, which I think is one of life's more interesting album covers, that. And of course his last album released shortly before he died, Black Star. But that's a sort of whistle top look. And
I think it's interesting, Derek. Can we nail down, if we're ever able to? It was Bowie, wasn't it? It wasn't Bowie, as a lot of people have said over the years. What was the definitive on that?
I don't know. I think people tend to pronounce it both ways, to be honest.
Well, let's have a straw poll. Macca, what would you say?
Oh, it's definitely Bowie for me.
Bowie like the knife.
Yeah.
Paul
Yeah.
B, what do you say?
Yeah, it's Bowie like Zoe, isn't it? And of
Bowie
course,
like Zoe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or Zowie Bowie.
No. Let's ask.
Yeah. My young friend Francis Coughlin's joined us now. This is Frank's first time ever online. He's
Oh, wow.
bought a computer off some dodgy dealer at a car boot sale today. Apparently,
That's right. I've just
fallen off the back of a horse, hasn't it, Frank? Yeah,
that's right. That's how it is. Just saucy, you know.
Yeah. No, Frank's one of my oldest friends, and there's a group of us that, well, he and the others go out and drink lots of beer. I don't. No, seriously, I don't. I always get invited. I never go, do I, Frank?
No.
But,
So they drink it all for you.
No, I just don't go. I just don't like going out and drinking lots of beer, basically. Frank and I had a lime and soda and a coffee earlier, which was great.
That's right.
Really fun. So now I've known Frank for at least 30, if not 40 years, mate, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, Tony is right.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's lovely to have someone new join us. So Derek up at the top, Frank, is our musicologist. He takes the lead when we do a special, because he tends to do the research and all the history behind someone. Lord Hesford in the middle there, you might know off Facebook. Andy Hesford.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
So Andy tends to know some weird and wonderful things, and we always think he's making it up, but he's not usually.
No, we never think he's
Heather and
making it up.
Jason are going to do a couple of live tracks for us in due course, and Andy will be doing a live track or two as well. Paul is an international radio presenter. You don't let him leave the country, but he's heard in Australia. He's heard in Australia once a year.
Once a week, thank you,
once
sir.
Once a week, yes, yeah. So he does 10 years he's been doing a radio show.
For 10 years next week is
and,
10 years. And
lots of bits and bobs of radio all over the place. So
and I talked.
Zoe is a poet friend.
And partner of me.
And partner of Paul as well. But they're in separate rooms. Nothing funny going on here. They're in separate rooms. Zoe's up in the northern hemisphere of Southport. So I don't know why we say it's in the north, because it's called Southport.
Southport, yeah.
And Paul's down in Hereford, Hereford.
Yes, I'm based down in Herefordshire
Yeah.
at the present time. But
Due to confidentiality, the man top right is called Macca, and he's from Liverpool. And he sang Mulligan Tire for us live last week.
I'm so gutted I
First time
missed
in
that.
50 years he's ever
I
sung
missed
live.
it. I
We
missed it.
sometimes have the one and only BG as well.
You
Yeah, so you might meet some interesting people, but there'll be a few.
Oh, you
people-
will. You absolutely will. There's no might about it.
So there's the lovely Mike Howard is watching us on Facebook.
Oh, hang on, Tone. You've gone under the covers.
Oh, sorry. A lovely friend called Mike Howarth is one of the people watching us on Facebook. So what we do, Frank, is Derek talks for a bit. We play a bit of music, then we have a bit of a chat, and then anyone who's going to sing live or read a poem or whatever gets filtered in. So without further ado, Derek, what we doing?
Well, I thought we'd start at the beginning. A very good place to start, as
Hey.
would say. I mean, Bowie was born on the 8th of January 1947 in Brixton. And mentioned in 62, he got into his first band, playing sax essentially and singing a bit, the Conrads. And then 64 found him in Davy Jones and the Kingbees, because of course he wasn't called Bowie at this, but I'm with Bowie as well as the pronunciation. He was very much Davy Jones, sometimes spelt with an IE, sometimes spelt with a Y. And the first single he ever released was as Davy Jones and the Kingbees, and it was Lisa Jane coupled with Louie Louie. Now, Lisa Jane's an interesting one. It was a cover of a 1916 song called Come Out of the, well, it was from a show called Come Out of the Kitchen, which I thought sounds like a really interesting kind of show to be in. And the B-side, as you guess, with a title like Louie Louie Go Home, was a cover of Paul Revere and the Raiders song from 64. And then as the Manish Boys, that's his next band, so within summer of 64, they auditioned for Opportunity Knocks, which people of a certain age will remember as the X Factor of its day. But unlike the X Factor, the urban myth has it that Manish Boys actually passed the audition, but didn't go on it because it was considered that it wasn't all that cool for a self-respecting band to go on Huey Green and Opportunity Knocks. How times have changed. But still, it's
some genuine talents.
And he meant it most sincerely, folks.
Absolutely. But, again, as times are changing, Bowie was interviewed by Cliff Mitchellmore, famous sort of interviewing chap at the time, 64. And the reason he was on was David Bowie had founded the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Long-Haired Men, which I thought was rather nice.
Surely been very popular in 67 and 77.
Absolutely. But I mean, anti-BBC was still a little down on these. I mean, he did release a track, a single around this time, 65, called I Pity the Fool, which was actually a Bobby Bland original, an American R&B #1 in 61. But apparently, when they appeared on the TV on a wonderfully named BBC Two show called Gazooks, It's All Happening.
Yes.
The urban myth again there is that the BBC told them that unless they had a haircut, they weren't going to go on. But they relented and they did perform. But it's interesting to see how times changed, really. And still as Davy Jones, he released a track called You've Got a Habit of Leaving. He wrote that. He's written an awful lot of stuff right through his career. And that was produced by Shel Talmy. He's the guy who produced all the early Beatles, Who stuff when they were at Brunswick. And they had a big falling out. And it was the 16th of September, 65, when he released a press announcement to say that he was no longer Davy with an IE or a Y Jones, and he was now David Bowie. And his next band was the Lower Third. And interestingly enough, he might not have got there because Steve Marriott, Small Faces were just starting out. He also auditioned, but Bowie beat him to the gig. And with David Bowie in the Lower Third, they recorded a number of singles as well. Can't Help Thinking About Me. And he was in yet another band now, the latter at the beginning of 66, called the Buzz. And they released a a few singles. And Do Anything You Say is actually the first single is just David Bowie, but Buzz were actually recording on that, but not credited on the label. And the first, I think, real solo single from Bowie was I Dig Everything. But he was still with the Buzz, but it was pretty much moving along by then. And then he released his first Derham single, Rubber Band, off that Derham first album. And it's probably time for a little bit of music, Tony. Oh,
No.
sorry, I hadn't noticed. Tony's popped out for a beer.
Good man.
Good man.
Yeah, so
It's thirsty work.
I mean, it's fascinating just how many bands that Bowie was with.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, this is the real essence of the beginning of, well, this is the whole beat era.
He did a
And-
song. He did a song called he covered, and John Denver also recorded this. He did a song called "The Port of Amsterdam,"
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yes.
which is a
Jackson Brel, isn't it?
yeah. I don't know how you describe it. It's a and he did that as a solo. I think I have a
That's
copy.
right.
I have an
It
aunt
was
who
released
used.
out of Solo, wasn't it?
That's right. It is, and I have an aunt who used to work for RCA Records. Nothing flash in that. She was sort of behind the scenes, literally packing the records. But she got a hold of a whole load of stuff, inclusive of that. And I did some. I know he did some stuff with RCA, but an unknown. And I know you talked about the Laughing Gnome and stuff like that he did, which were very different, and just showed the breadth of talent that he did have. Right up until, as you say, Derek, right up to the end. He was still going, and it was only when the illness that he had took a big hold that, and I remember him being interviewed just before he died, and sort of saying, I'm sad for my family, but I'm not sad for me.
Mm.
And he was very sort of reflective on his time.
I mean, he's certainly an interesting guy.
Oh,
So,
Yes.
so should we have a little blast of some of his very early stuff then, Derek? Should we
Absolutely.
have a little playthrough of? So I think you've picked Davy Jones from the Monkees singing "You've Got a Habit of Leaving," pretending to be David Bowie. I'm sure there was a mix-up going on there. Is that one
Exactly.
of the reasons he changed his name, or was
It
just
was
a
one of the
mistake?
reasons, yeah.
Yeah,
And he,
yeah,
he chose the, of knife fame, Alamo
Yeah.
hero.
yeah. And then we've got the Bobby Blue Bland, "I Pity the Fool."
say that
which
again.
was the Bobby Blue Bland Band, with a version of "I Pity the Fool," which is the song Bowie did as the Manish Boys. And then we've got Davy Jones in the lower third, "Can't Help Thinking About Me." So we're going to have a minute or two of each of them. You're going to enjoy it, or else. Yeah. If you don't enjoy it, go away. Yeah. No, you're going to enjoy this. Just let's make sure I've hit the right button. Is this making a difference?
Yes. Gotcha.
You got a habit of leaving me, and you got a habit of deserting me. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I'm so sad, sometimes I'm so glad, so glad. You could grow if you wanted to, wanted to, wanted to, wanted to.
I pity the fool. I said I pity the fool. Well, I pity the fool, yeah. I said I pity the fool.
honor. My head's bowed in shame. It seems that I've blackened the family name. Mother says that she can't stand the neighbors talking. I've gotta pack my bags, leave this home, start walking. Yeah, I'm guilty. I wish that I was sorry this time. I wish that I could pay for my crime. I can't help thinking about me. I can't help thinking about me. I can't help thinking about me. Remember when we used to go to church on Sundays? I lay awake at night, terrified of school on Mondays. Oh, but it's too late now. I wish I was a child again. I wish I felt secure again. I can't help thinking about me. I can't help thinking about me.
So, some interesting stuff there, Derek. I mean, he's really quite
Absolutely.
good at singing there, because that's the only thing occasionally I think about Bowie is there's some songs he sings and he doesn't naturally sing. I mean, he sounds good. I like what he does, but he doesn't have a natural singing voice. But he did there. That would pass mustard, as a good representation of how to sing a pop song, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's surprised that wasn't a hit, really, when you think about the stuff. That's the sort of mid-60s,
Yeah.
right in the heart of the Beat era. And there were just so many great bands around. I mean, he really did beaver away.
Yeah.
I mean, by 67, he joined the Riot Squad. I mentioned, another band that never found much in the way of commercial success, but highly rated. Actually formed by Larry Page in 64. And Bowie recorded with them as well. And one of the tracks that he recorded was I'm Waiting for the Man. So it's interesting, he's always been covered some great songs as well. I mean, he is a prolific songwriter. There's no two ways about that. And then, of course, the Laughing Gnome came in 67. You imagine, 67, this is the summer of love and the beginning of psychedelia.
Yeah.
So he obviously wasn't headed in that particular direction at this particular time. And he was actually still with the Riot Squad when he released Laughing Gnome, and that's the time of the first album. I don't think Laughing Gnome was actually on the album, but he wrote all 14 songs, played guitar and sax, and he's diversifying all the time. In the December of 67, he made his theatre debut in Oxford as a character called Cloud in Lindsay Kemp's Poirot in Turquoise, and Bowie wrote the songs that are in it. And apparently it was Bowie that suggested that turquoise was added to the to the title, because he was into Buddhism at the time. And apparently Buddhism is a sort of sense of destiny, eternity, sort of duality of living and dying.
Yeah.
So, the guy is, he's, I don't know about experimenting, but he's branching out in all kinds of directions. And then in mid-68, he's in a completely different direction again with a band called Turquoise that morphed into Feathers. And that was a sort of poetry, dance, mixed media, folk music trio. And they recorded some stuff as well. And interestingly enough, Space Oddity has got an interesting pedigree. I mean, it started off in a project called Love You Till Tuesday. This is the beginning of 69. And that was part of a sort of 30-minute film that was produced to introduce Bowie to a wider audience. I mean, that particular soundtrack wasn't actually released by Derek until the mid-80s. And it was the September of 69 where Space Oddity finally gave, on Philips, finally gave David Bowie his first taste of chart success. It got him to number 5, didn't do anything in America. And Rick Wakeman features on keyboards, and Tony Visconti, who's a big part of Bowie's story. He worked with him on the album. In fact, he was working with him on the album, and he offered Bowie offered Tony Visconti the chance to re-record Space Oddity. He turned it down. So that's the only song on that album that he doesn't actually produce. And he recommended it's made Gus Dudgeon, which I thought was quite interesting. And maybe, you know, in retrospect,
He's got a
he might
name
have
destined for fame, hasn't he? Gus Dudgeon, you know.
Oh, that's a great name.
Just
Yeah.
David, just before you carry on and we'll play the songs, Andy, what period of the songs you're gonna sing for us live, roughly?
Well, actually, it made the Ziggy Stardust period made quite an impact on me. I saw them. Everyone says, well, Top of the Pops. You know, I had to phone someone to pick on you. You know, they always think of that performance, but I always remember some weeks before he was on Lift Off with Aisha. And it was shortly after my 11th birthday. That's actually how I remember it. Because I got a record token and a pack of Magic Roundabout Plasticine. I was 11. I never did make Zebedee, but anyway.
Plasticine, that was a brilliant thing, wasn't it?
Well,
yeah.
Well, what happened was I used to save up my pocket money, and the first thing I bought was Telegram Stand by T-Rex, and I saw the single and I thought, I know it's on an album, isn't it? You know, if I get the album, I don't have to pay out my 45 pence of Poor Boys in St. Chad's Parade. So I saved up. Well, I like Starmo. I looked at the cover and I didn't know any of the songs. I had a vague recollection of having heard Hang On To Yourself. I think it was on a Radio 1 program or something where they used to record special sessions and introduce these songs. And then in September, there were two songs which hit me right between the eyes. One was All the Young Dudes, which was by Mott the Hoople. And again, the attraction of it, who needs TV when I got T-Rex?
Yes.
You know, so it was like Bowie sort of two fingers up to Mark Bolan, really. But there was also, apart from the fact he wrote that, there was also this great song called John I'm Only Dancing.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought, I've got to do it. I've got to go out and buy the album. So there I go, right, bumbling along to Boots in St. Chad's Parade because they had better albums. And I bought my copy of Ziggy Stardust, for which I paid £2.20 back fans. And I bought it on the 16th of September 1972, according to the date I wrote on the cover. So I didn't buy it because of Stardust. I bought it looking for John and Only Dancing. It wasn't on the album. But I played it to death, and I've still got my copy. I've got a copy on CD now. But it was only the second album I bought. The other one was The Slider by T-Rex. You know, and you know when you think you grew up in this era, but looking at it through a telescope, it looks incredible. You know, I was still in my long trousers, you know, going to secondary school, and here's me sort of talking, hey, did you see Slade the other night on Top of the Pops doing Goodbye to Jane? And I'm thinking to myself, my enthusiasm for music was fired up by the fact there was so much good stuff. There's probably quite a lot of rubbish. I mean, I couldn't say I was a big Osmonds fan, put it that way. But at the same time, I knew the songs were like a guilty secret. It's like admitting that you like the Nolan sisters, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose there's the thing off the back of it, Andy, the fact that Starman particularly, I know that today that particular song is seen as a big moment for the LGBT community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was, didn't he give somebody a hug on stage, or didn't he? Wasn't there something that happened that?
I think you're right.
Oh, he used to pretend he was doing something to Mick Ronson's guitar.
Yes.
You know, filleting the guitar.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I don't think we need to go too much into it, but.
I mean, I'll be honest with you.
That's where the big phrase "suck it and see" comes from.
Oh dear! Oh dear! Oh dear!
Don't say a thing. Don't say a thing. But I do know that, you know, when I think about it, I'd be listening to stuff and thinking, "That's good. That's great." You like "Stuck in the Middle with You" by Steelers Wheel, or you know, "Rock-a-Doodle Doo" by Linda Lewis, or "The Gene Genie" by our erstwhile friend Mr. Bowie or Bowie, and you'd think, am I living in a good time where all these songs are like now sort of define the time I'm living in as a 11, 12-year-old? And I mean, I feel quite sort of, I feel a nostalgic glow talking about it, because it was around the first time I wanted a guitar. I wanted one.
You feel lucky.
I wanted one.
Yeah. Do you feel lucky?
I feel very lucky. The problem is that I used to think about my parents saying, "Oh, do you remember such and such on the pictures?" Oh, yeah, it was in 1953 when they went to see this movie when my mum and dad had just got married. And I thought, dull. But then to them, that was important because it was a connection. And yet my dad had an appreciation of music, and he'd say, "It's quite good, but yeah, don't listen to his stuff, son. I think there's something wrong with him." Or Mark Bolan, he used to nickname Mark Bolan Al Bowley. You know, we was a band leader who died.
Oh, goodness me.
Al Bowley. Well, he did a
Yes.
song which I think is in Withnall and I, was it? Hang out the stars in Indiana. You know,
That's it. Yes, yes.
he had a voice like he was talking for a microphone, you know. And so my dad related to it in a way that my mother possibly couldn't. She thought everyone Top of the Pops was metal, you know. Oh, Roxy Music. Oh, bloody hell. That fella on the piano, he looks well weird. I mean, she hadn't seen Eno yet. She was looking at Brian Ferry.
There's that. He's from Washington, where I grew up. Is Brian Ferry. And
oh, yeah. He went to Newcastle University. He did his fine arts.
He did. And there's that lovely thing. I don't know if you listen to it very closely when they play Dance Away. If you maybe hear it on earphones or even not on earphones, you can hear him as they open the drum, the percussion, the drum beginning to the song. You hear him strike a match.
Yeah.
That's been done.
Yeah.
You can guess what
I
he
did
was
a
doing.
recording last year. Tony was there of a song called The Missing Page. It was a recitation. And Tony did a recitation for the album we did, Listening Out of Earshot. And it was like, I'm sorry to go off the subject so much, Tony and Derek, please forgive me. But it was like, you know, the Strand advert that used to be on the early 60s in the cinema. You're never alone with a Strand. I showed this man their Australia house in London, and that striking a match. And I was like doing this voice as if I was from Hoboken, New Jersey. It was more like from Westvale, Kirby. You know, lady, don't fall backwards. Knock out by the mess. You know, and as I walk away, and you hear the clap was here, match, which Tony went out and got a box of Swan Vestas from the local garage. It took 3 takes to get the right match.
His Swan Vestas as opposed to Bryant's.
Well, it was all that was available. You know, there were no words of wisdom on a box of Swan Vestas. Average content 30 matches. But you know, I going back to David Bowie. Yeah, it was a big fan because it was like it's how people must have felt in the 60s when the sort of Beatles and they'd go from say Help to Day Tripper to Paperback Writer, and you think there's another change in the way they sing it, another change in the appearance. And then how American audiences perceived Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields. It was like all the changes. Some of the audience thought, this is quite good. I recognise these. Other people thought, I don't like the Beatles looking like this. With David Bowie, you wanted them to be different every time. You know, and I think that it was important, and people made connections and were not afraid to be themselves. And the effect on everything that came after punk rock and new romanticism and all that was immeasurable.
I wonder.
Influence.
Quick question, Derek. The fact that Bowie was in this crossover period because he did this. You know, he started in that middle 60s period. All right, got through that when the Stones, the Beatles, and everybody was going crazy with hits and what have you. Then he went through this thing where you had groups like the Moody Blues, and you had, you know, arguably Pink Floyd and stuff like that. And then he went into this, as you've described, he went into this sort of mellowish period where he just worked his way through it. I wonder how he saw himself.
I think it's very difficult to know. I mean, I sometimes wonder whether he was almost hiding behind one alter ego after another. I mean, his work is inconsistent at times as well, and he's recorded some absolutely awesome stuff. But there are quite a few tracks as you're flicking through, you know, 26 albums that you probably wouldn't listen to too often. I mean, he spent, it's almost as though because he was so unsuccessful in the 60s, he just kept reinventing himself and forever moving forward. And then, of course, I mean, we'll get to Tin Machine later. I mean, that was a whole complete change of everything about Bowie. I mean, he just became, you know, the lead singer in a rock and roll band or a proto grunge band. And you know, yeah, I think that's one of the fascinating things about Bowie is how he did keep just changing across his entire career. You know, it's a bit like Frank Zappa, you know, all of the albums across the career are so different that in some ways it's difficult to pick a favorite.
I don't think you could really, to be honest. I think because, again, he's like arguably a different genre of music, but he's arguably like Cliff Richard. I know Cliff has been around a long, long time and keeps reinventing himself, and Elton John, I suppose, is the same, where they've just kept going and going and going with the times and put themselves out there. And I suppose Bowie would fall into that category in terms of he kept going.
I think the interesting thing is where he's being influenced by. Like in 1966, 67, you mentioned about him covering I'm Waiting for the Man. His manager had been to America and he brought over a load of acetates because they were thinking about what would be successful in the UK, what would be successful in America. And the burgeoning sort of psychedelic scene was coming about. And one of the things he had was a copy of the Velvet Underground's album, which hadn't come out in the UK at that point. And so, you know, the famous Banana album, it had never come out. And what I find strange is he was one of the people to cover it first. And in fact, I think there's a tape of a radio broadcast for Radio London, where they used to have nights on at the Marquee or wherever it was. And he was featured with a band on this broadcast doing I'm Waiting for the Man, early 1967. Yeah. Before anyone had ever heard him. And then, of course, 5 years later or less, he's actually produced Lou Reed's album, Transformer.
That's right.
And, of course, the famous Walk on the Wild Side and Perfect Day. And you've got the other side of this, which is, of course, in 1971, he wasn't happy with the deal that was made with Mercury, and it was coming to an end anyway. And he went over with, I think, what was his name? Tony DeFries, the one who ran Main Man. And he went over and met a crowd who were in an alternative off-Broadway show. I think it was called Pork. And they were all these like characters who were really odd, you know, Cindy Darling, and, you know, I'm not sure about the other ones, but there were things like, oh no, there were some people, Cindy Darling's referred to in Walk on the Wild Side, actually. You know what they say, self-reference is the freedom of every artist. You include everything about your life or what your attitudes are, but you disguise it in a way. It doesn't seem like attack. It's like some third person saying, oh, by the way, I think this is rubbish, or I think this is rubbish.
Right. Guys, just before we carry on chatting and Derek tells us any more, should we play these three songs, Derek?
Sorry, I went off on a riff there.
Do not worry.
No, it was well worth hearing.
A bit of the Nothing Gloam, or whatever it was called.
Tony, I advise you to start drinking regularly now.
And then we're going to love you till Tuesday, Andy.
You'll enjoy that.
It was only me.
And then we're going up in a telescope to see a space oddity. You see, yeah.
Oh, that's
tenuous link. Oh.
I know. Anyway, let's have I've got two versions of Laughing Gnome. One's 1 second longer than the other one.
Oh my God, I'll notice.
Play the long one. Play the long one.
I was walking down the high street when I heard footsteps behind me, and there was a little old man in scarlet and grey chuckling away. Well, he trotted back to my house and he sat beside the telly, with his tiny hands on his tummy, chuckling away, laughing all day. I ought to report you to the gnome office. Oh yes. Ha ha ha, ee ee ee. I'm a laughing gnome and you can't catch me. Ha ha ha, ee ee ee. I'm a laughing gnome and you can't catch me, said the laughing gnome. Well, I gave him roasted toadstools and a glass of dandelion wine. Then I put him on a train to Eastbourne, carried his bag and gave him a fag. Yeah, where do you come from? Oh, really? In the morning, when I woke up, he was sitting on the edge of my bed with his brother whose name was Fred. He'd brought him along to sing me a song. All right, let's hear it. Yeah, what's that clicking noise? Ha ha ha, ee ee ee. I'm a laughing gnome and you can't catch me. Ha ha ha. Just look through your window. Look who sits outside. Little me is waiting, standing through the night. When you walk out through your door, I'll wave my flag and shout, ah, beautiful baby, my burning desire started on Sunday. Give me your heart and I'll love you till Tuesday. Da 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 dum, da 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 dum, da 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 dum. Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. 10. Ground control to Major Tom. 8, 7, 6. Commencing countdown, engines on. 3, 2. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirts you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in a most peculiar way, and the stars look very
quality stuff there. So Heather, just
Oh,
before
that
we
was
let Derek
good.
carry on, Heather and Jason, what are you going to be doing for us?
Well, we've got a very, very
Yeah.
early one of David Bowie's, but
Yeah, I like the way you ended that song. That was quite
Yes, I
appropriate.
did. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it really worked.
yes.
White noise.
So go on, what are you going to do for us then?
okay,
Jason?
so we're going to do Little Eliza Jane, which is the
Oh.
very first one. But just on that
Yeah.
era of David Bowie, my sister was a big Bowie fan, very big Bowie fan, and she had the very first album. It didn't have the Laughing Gnome on it, but it had all those other folky influenced songs. I think we did an Uncle Arthur for you when it was the Pink
Yes.
Floyd one.
Love that. Love that.
Because the Pink Floyd, Sid Barrett said of Love Me Till Tuesday, which is the one you just played, the very last part of that, he goes, well, I might stretch it till Wednesday, and Sid Barrett hated that and said, oh, it's just naff, and he's just trying to do comical. And this was kind of 6 months after Relics had just come out, where they had done See Emily Play and all that. So it's quite interesting. And David Bowie, I think he said that he went to see Pink Floyd when he was 16, which was kind of, was that an insult or not? But I think became best friends in the end, because obviously they would not have been around then, he was kind of saying. So yeah, we're going to do Little Eliza Jane and maybe another one.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, just one.
Beautiful.
It was really weird because I learnt Space Oddity on the guitar about when I was a kid. And I just picked up my guitar and was trying to play along with it now. And I guess you know it on the guitar, do you, Andrew? And I was just going, blimey, that's really nice chords, isn't it? The C and the E7 and that that bit where it goes F major to F minor. It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Well, what's interesting is that the only guitar he had at this point, to my knowledge, was a 12-string Harmony, which was later fitted with a pickup. It's the one which has got like a blue front on it, which he's shown in some of his TV appearances playing. You know, when he played 5 years on the Old Grey Whistle Test, and you know, things like that. And also when he played Star on the Top of the Pops, he had that 12-string.
Okay, so that is a 12-string on the record, isn't it?
Yeah. But what happened is Gus Dudgeon's technique was to record one guitar track and then another guitar with phasing. Slightly, the shift on it is slightly out.
Yeah.
So it sounds like instead of just being one strum, it's like a strum that sort of spreads.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like an ADT type thing. You know, where, you know, I'm trying to think of what that stands for, but you know, basically like, you know, double track, and
right, okay.
And he also, if I remember rightly, there's a bit on that came just before the fade out, which was that they played the stylophone. Bowie was always latching onto some angle to get played on the radio. It was no coincidence. It was just before.
I'll go get my stylophone if you want.
Yes,
I've got one. But the stylophone. What happened
I've
was
got one. I've got a zither as well. But,
Go on, go and get it then. Go on.
Show it off. Show it off.
But what happened was when he played the stylophone, Ken Pitt, who was his manager, turned around and said, you know, if you let the company, Devrek, know that you're using the stylophone, because the first one to use one on telly was actually, I shouldn't really say this, it was Rolf Harris.
It was,
And he ended up where he got, you know, he was shown sort of, you know, play the stylophone, like, you know. And David Bowie actually did get in the music papers with pictures of him playing the stylophone. Listen to David Bowie play the stylophone on his hit record, Space Oddity. He did it deliberately because he knew if he didn't get an angle from being played during the Apollo broadcast, it would definitely shown in the papers.
And the other thing as well, Andy, is he was a great friend of Kenny Everett. And of course, it was around that time when Kenny was just launching, going into Capital, when Capital Radio was launching in London. And Kenny, of course, was the main man doing breakfast program in those days. And he was a huge friend of Kenny. And so Kenny would play all his records, him and Freddie Mercury, and all those sorts of bands.
Forget about the pioneers in radio like that.
Went
He
to
was
my
very
school,
much a
Kenny
pioneer.
Everett. Old boy of my school, Kenny Everett.
In Seaforth, yeah?
Yeah.
Hereford Road, Seaforth.
Hereford Road, that's kind of...
Well, one thing Jason pointed out about the Laughing Gnome is that if you ignore the sort of quite trite lyrics and listen to the music behind it, sounds quite punk rock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good point. that.
Really, you know.
Yeah.
The Riot Squad playing on it, you know.
Yes.
Sorry, say
super
again.
point.
Yeah, the Riot Squad, as we mentioned before, so it's like boom, 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 which is basically my bass playing style.
It's really. I mean, it's some of his music that sounds a bit dated and 60s, but it was really quite innovative. But he was just scrabbling to get all sorts of things from, bring everything together. And when you do that, you end up with an eclectic mix of quite interesting stuff.
It was because Bowie was influenced by situations around him. He would listen to records, and there's a picture of him listening to records on a radiogram or dance set. And he'd go, what makes that record work and that record doesn't work? And for example, he thought, you know, the Kaiser Bill's Batman by Whistling Jack Smith.
Oh, yes.
It was.
Oh, it's an earworm. You've stopped.
But it was successful. And you can't knock success.
Yeah,
It was not a credible success. You didn't find people saying, when are you doing your psychedelic masterpiece, Whistling Jack Smith? You know, are you gonna play the whole album backwards?
You've just given me an earworm now. I won't sleep for 3 days now.
Anyway,
You put me
listen.
in
Let's
Smith and
let's let poor Heather and Jason. Is Jason
Sorry,
playing
Heather
it
and
and Heather
Jason.
singing it?
We're both going to sing a bit of it. So, but this is, I mean, the version of Liza Jane that Davy Jones, as he was then, did was very different to this. This is a much more traditional version that children would sing. Now, listen out for the Merseyside reference. If I don't fluff the words,
I'm sitting on Heather's left today. It's
It's on my lap.
either I elbow her in the ribs or I poke her in the eye, you see.
Oh,
If you can find my ribs.
yeah.
I got a friend in Baltimore, little Liza Jane. Streetcars won't swing by her door, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. I got a friend in San Antonio, little Liza Jane. Tumbleweeds and cactus, they grow, little Liza Jane. Sorry, it's getting dark and I can't read the words. Oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. I've got a friend in Providence, little Liza Jane. Bluebird sitting on the fence, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. I've got a friend in Chicago, little Liza Jane. Walk and feel the cold winds blow, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. I've got a friend in Sioux Falls, little Liza Jane. Where the sunflowers grow so tall, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. I've got a friend in Cape Cod, little Liza Jane. Bullfrogs singing on the pond, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. I've got a friend in Tokyo, little Liza Jane. Springtime moons and blossoms grow, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. I've got a friend on Merseyside, little Liza, who eats wet Nelly cake all day long, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane. Oh, little Liza Jane.
Oh, that's
Fabulous.
Trying to find something to rhyme with Merseyside.
That is
So, no, the only thing I could find was wet Nelly cake all day long.
that is
That'll do, yeah.
fabulous, fabulous.
What is wet Nelly cake is the question.
Nelson cake.
Well, what
I
is
know it
it?
is. I know it is. It's when it was something that was an old recipe. It was a way of using up bread that was nearing its last.
All right.
Slice the bread up and pour golden syrup on it. Let it soak through. You could either cook it and make it hot, or eat it cold. And it was actually Nelson cake, wet Nelly, and it was all basically soaked up bits of bread, and you cut it like a cake.
Didn't know that.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Right, Macca, did
Wow.
you know that one?
Well, it was easier to rhyme that than scouse.
yeah. I like Scout.
Mother worked for Sayers, and Sayers was a confectioner, and he used to try making various things. You know, when there was a fashion for them, they made Spotted Dick, but they didn't call it Spotted Dick. You know, for obvious reasons. And it turned out that it was actually like a pastry with currants in, and he used to call it
Like an English cake.
It was bigger.
Ah,
It was
right.
basically all the leftover dough got rolled into a big ball and loads of currants put on it. And sometimes you used to put like jam in the middle. So it's basically like an oversized jam donuts.
Ooh,
But, you know,
lovely.
but a
Roly
lot of the
poly
kids,
pudding, Andrew. Roly poly pudding.
and they never called it that because it wasn't roly poly. But I do know one thing about it. The kids used to call it a fly cemetery.
That's right, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the currants.
You learn
yeah.
something new here, aren't you? You know.
Yeah.
My word, aren't we just?
Now,
Anyway,
what that has got to do
that
with
was really-
David Bowie is anyone's guess.
anyway,
how did we get on to
everything is to do with David Bowie, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
My granddad used to call it as fly cemetery. Let alone kids. They used to say, rabbit and fly cemetery.
Can I give a special congratulations to Jason because keeping your fiddle in tune in this heat. You did a
Nice one,
marvelous.
Jason.
Yeah,
No,
you
thank
did
you
a
very much.
marvelous
No,
job.
Truly,
with it.
No,
that was truly fabulous.
It was really dodgy at the start because we've only practiced it once, you see, so we didn't know what we were doing for the first verse.
Yeah, it just shows though what if you can get the rhythm right, it just everything works, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
No, that was stunning. Honestly, that was worthy of the Albert Hall. Honestly, it was.
I don't know if he'll be able to keep it in tune tomorrow. We're expecting 38 to 40 here. I don't know about where you guys are.
Yeah.
Maybe where Paul is, he'll have the same, but horrendous.
Where to be quite honest, I'm kind of lucky. I live in an upstairs flat, so there's any breeze there is, I get. But yeah, we're expecting.
All round to Paul's.
Absolutely, and all welcome. Yeah, but at the moment over here in Cider County, it's sort of it's been quite pleasant today, actually. I would say, but it's going to be a roaster anyway.
I mean, it says 30, it was 31 here, but it was cloudy. It's when it's 31 and it's sunny, that's when you can't keep the temperature down.
Yeah.
Because they take the temperature in the shade, but the sun is the thing that heats up your house through the windows, isn't it?
And how are all your animals coping with it? Because I know you have
Well, one of
your
them sitting here looking at us. The cat's just tropical anyway.
Yeah, she doesn't mind the heat.
No, we're below sea level, so it's the humidity in the heat, really.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's what I miss from being, because I'm from Saddleworth originally, where it's cooler, but you don't get the humidity as you do there.
No, there's no humidity. No, not on the moor. No.
On the mirror.
On the moor.
Okay, so Derek, let's let you fill the gaps in and get us on to our next because we're glamming things up next, aren't we? So Space Oddity was basically is moment in time really, wasn't it?
Absolutely. If Glam hadn't come along, it's quite feasible that he might have remained a one-hit wonder. I think it was just that he was like, Glam was virtually invented for David Bowie. I mean, if you really thought about it and you were creating a book or a movie about the whole thing, you just could not have had a more appropriate artist than Bowie for the whole glam rock thing. I mean, that's where we are in the story now, really, 1970. And The Prettiest Star, that's the one with Bolan on lead guitar and produced by Tony Visconti, was the follow-up to Space Oddity, and it did absolutely nothing. And really, you could say that what's often considered to be the first glam concert was on the 11th of March 1970 at the Roundhouse. And that was when he was there as Hype, brand new band, entirely new look. And that was with Mick Ronson. So Mick Ronson's coming to the scene now, and Tony Visconti on bass. And it was April of 71 when he released his third album. The first two he called David Bowie, which I thought was rather nice.
Quick question, Derek. Was
Yep.
Mick Ronson related to Mark Ronson?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Who did, Mark Ronson, who...
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
obviously-
I'll find out for you.
Just a thought. I mean, was
I'll
he
find
dad
out.
or something like that?
You
know.
well, you have a little carry on, Derek.
Just a thought.
Yeah. So-
Mark Ronson obviously became a pretty decent music producer in his own right. I just wondered if there was a relationship there, whether they were related or not.
I don't know, to be honest.
You
Anyway,
carry on. I'm looking
You're
it up.
easy looking at there we go.
Okay.
Hey, who loves
we
Google?
got to the man who sold the world. His third album, released in the April of 71, actually charted in the November of 72 after the Starman thing took off. And Tony Visconti is on this as well. But this is where Bowie and Visconti fell out. Basically, the record company was seriously unimpressed with the album and completely lost interest in David Bowie. And David Bowie thought the answer was to change his manager to Tony DeFries. And apparently Visconti said to him, "If you go with DeFries, I'm off." Anyway, he went with DeFries, so there was a parting of the ways until the live album in 74. And that's, of course, 71 is when the Ziggy Stardust thing happened. I mean, Trevor Boulder replaced Tony Visconti on bass, and this is the whole Spiders of Mars thing. And their first tour was in the February of 72. They kicked all that off, and the album. And the Ziggy Stardust character was inspired in parts by Vince Taylor of Vince Taylor and the Playboys, who apparently considered himself to be a cross between a god and an alien. So you can see there's a degree of interest in the character there. And the other inspiration was the legendary Stardust Cowboy, who his mother thought his name was Norman Carl Adam. And he was a sort of psychobilly pioneer. They're cited as very much inspirations for Ziggy Stardust. And the Mott the Hoople mentioned earlier, I mean, they owe everything basically to Bowie, because I saw them live, an absolutely awesome live band. And certainly in the beginning, they never managed to capture that on record. And in fact, they were on tour in Switzerland in the sort of spring of 72. And they had some really bad gigs, and they were completely disillusioned with lack of success and decided to split up. And David Bowie was a fan and went to see them and said, "Hey lads, I've written this song called Suffragette City. How would you like that? You can have it." "Oh no, we don't like that. Can we have All the Young Dudes instead, your other song?" So that's how they came to record All the Young Dudes. And in fact, later on, as the B-side in 73 of a track called, a single called All the Way from Memphis, they actually had a B-side called Ballad of Mott, brackets, March the 28th, 72, Zurich, close brackets. And that was the gig where they decided to call it a day. So, it left enough of an implant on the mind to actually turn it into a song. So probably time for some more music, Tony.
Well, maybe so, but I think Andy might be strapped up there, man. Andy might.
Brilliant.
In a nice way.
Are you strapped in there, Andy, with your resonator or whatever it is?
Oh no! What it is, this is the one where my friend Phil Roskell said to me, "It's a great guitar, but you got a problem with woodworm in that."
Oh no!
Oh dear.
So are you doing all the dung youths or something?
No, I'll do Ziggy Stardust.
You'll do Ziggy Stardust. That'd be fun.
I felt quite hip in school in Brookfield in September 72.
Did you have long hair?
Yeah, I have had long hair. on many occasions. I even had a beard at one time.
You had a perm.
Oh, no, I
You
can't
had
see you
perm.
with a beard.
Andy, I've seen a photo of you with a perm, mate.
I know it's terrible.
A perm. Yeah.
Well,
When he was
a
in
real one.
Brookside as an extra, I don't know why they made him have his hair permed.
No. I'll be honest with you. I was cast for a role in a film about 9 years ago. I was going to play Colin Ben, who worked in Frank Hesse's music store, and he was the type of bloke who said, "Oh, it's great action on the guitar, isn't it? Yeah, it's great. It sounds really good too, and the strings are lovely." And he then produces a pair of pliers and he says, "You play one more note, I'll break every string on that guitar." So it was like casting against type, because I said, "I'm not aggressive." And he said, "Yeah, but you're a big bloke and you got red hair. You look like Colin Ben." Do I get paid? "Oh, you will eventually." "Okay, I'm aggressive."
Oh dear.
Method acting, Andy. There's a method.
Method acting.
Yeah.
Yes, what's my motivation, darling?
Come on then, let's have a bit of Star and Dust.
Yeah, okay.
Let's have
And this
Let's
has
have your best
actually made...
David Essex. Come on, your best David Essex Star.
Hold me close, don't let me go. No.
Oh no.
Get Dave behind you, Satan. Right. Hang on. Ziggy played guitar, jamming good with Wayne and Gilly, and spiders from Mars. He played a left hand, but made it too far. Became the special man, and we were Ziggy's band. Ziggy rarely sang, screwed up eyes and screwed down hairdo. That you catch from Japan. You can lick him by smiling, leave him to hang. Came on so loaded, man, well hung and snow white tan. Oh, where were the spiders? Then they tried to break our bowl. So we bitched about his fans, should he cuss his sweet hand? Ziggy played for time, jamming us that we were voodoo, and the kids were just grass. He was the nest with God-given ass. He took it all too far, but boy could he play guitar. Making love with his ego, Ziggy sucked up into his mind, like a leper messiah. When the kills had killed the man, we had to break up the band. Oh yeah. Ziggy played guitar.
Oh, fabulous, mate.
Super cool, fabulistic, Andy.
Yeah, but has anyone seen Father Ted when he did a singing competition and he had someone impersonating David Bowie?
Yeah.
And all three fathers were Elvis at different times.
That's right.
And he goes, Ziggy played guitar.
Oh,
And
brilliant, mate.
Full makeup.
You're amazing.
That was so good.
I wish it
That
was.
was really good, Andy. Really
Super
good.
effort, mate.
Yeah.
Super
You've got
effort.
such a good voice, Andy.
Jason's going to have to get tuned up quick for his whitey white light or something.
I wonder if you could do a sort of
You want to play the stylophone?
banjo.
What was that, Jason?
You
Go
want
on.
to play the stylophone now, Tony?
Oh, he sounds like
get my
Sussy.
xylophone.
I'm
I'll
gonna play
go
your
find it.
xylophone, Stutty.
I'll go and get it in a minute. I'll have a look. Let's play 3 songs that Derek's picked, and then I might go and get my stylophone. Yeah. So yeah. The Prettiest Star, Derek. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one with Bolan.
Oh yeah, original single
Oh.
version with Mark Bolan. Tie a yellow mini round an old oak tree, I think, wasn't it?
Cold fire, you got everything but cold fire. You will be my rest in peace, child. I moved up to take a place near you, so tired. It's the sky that makes you feel tried. It's a trick to make you see wide. It can all but break your heart in pieces. Staying back in your memory are the movies in the dark. How you move is all it takes to sing a song of when I loved the prettiest star. Staying back in your memory are the movies in the dark. How you move is all it takes to sing a song of I'm closer to the golden dawn, immersed in Crowley's uniform of imagery.
Yes, I have. There was just a show.
I'm living in a
I haven't heard anything, but I've heard
portraying Himmler's sacred realm of dream reality.
read Sheila's message, but I didn't hear any gunshots. I heard the
I'm
police.
frightened by the total goal,
I heard the police
drawing
siren.
to the ragged hole, and I ain't got the power anymore. No, I ain't.
About 2 minutes ago.
He rapped all night about his suicide, how he'd kick it in the head when he reached 25. That speed jive, don't wanna stay alive when you're 25. Wendy's stealing clothes from Marks and Sparks, and Freddy's got spots from ripping off stars from his face. The funky little boat race. Television man is crazy, saying we're juvenile delinquent wrecks. Like, man, I need a TV when I've got T-Rex. Hey, mister, you guessed, I'm a dude, Dad. Hey, dude! Where are you? Stand up! I wanna hear you. I wanna It's a real mean team, but we couldn't love. Oh, we got love. Brothers back at home with his Beatles and his Stones. We never got it off on his revolution stuff. What a drive, too many snags. Drunk a lot of wine and I'm feeling fine. Gotta race some cat to bed. There's a concrete all around in my head. Just in my head. Hey, I'm a doodad. Oh, the young dude. Hey, Goose. Carry the news. Oh, yeah. Boogaloo-doo. Stand up. Carry the news. Oh, the young dude. I want to hear ya. Carry the news. I want to see you. Boogaloo-doo. I want to relate. Carry the news. Oh, the young dude. What news? Carry the news. Let's hear the news. Come on. Boogaloo-doo. I want to kick you. Carry the news. Hey, you there. Oh, the young dude. With the glasses. Carry the news. I want you. I want you at the front. Carry the news. Now you're his friends. Now you bring him down. Because I want him. I want him right here. Bring him. Come on. Bring him. Here you go. I want him to do this for years. There you go.
So, what a classic. What a
Absolutely.
classic.
Amazing version.
Here we are.
If you press the vibrato switch, you
Yeah.
get a very interesting effect.
I think we should have a kazoo week.
I've got a kazoo. I've got a kazoo. I've got my kazoos. I've got enough for everyone.
Right, Dennis, where's your... Hey, Derek, where's your drums? Oh, get the drums out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
indeed. So, before
You
we
are
move-
Trevor Boulder.
we're going to be moving on to the good stuff in a minute. It's all been good, but we're going to be moving on to the really good stuff in a minute. But I think Jason looks like he wants to play. Play
No,
something.
not at all, not at all.
He wants to play
well,
Starphone.
sure.
We're going
What-
to.
Jason, Heather, what else are you going to play for
Well, we
us?
were going to do quicksand, but you've just played a bit of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll play it for us then. Come on.
Well, it starts. So I'm scrolling through the chords here, and Andy will vouch for this. That it gets to the weird bit, and it's really weird.
No, what is it? Is it like a augmented or?
Yeah, it's got diminished chords in it.
diminished? All you need to do is pull the main part of the chord back. If you play a D diminished, you pull it back one fret to the nearer the end of the guitar, near the end of the headstock. You know?
Yes.
So all you're doing really is you're sort of like, if I can demonstrate what I meant, I'm probably
I can find them, but not in real time. You know.
say if
He's
So
playing
what-
all the right notes, not necessarily in the right order, I think is what he's saying.
Les Dawson piano book, yeah.
Okay, it goes D sharp diminished E, E diminished B minor.
that's because he was playing on a 12 string.
Oh right.
Ah,
It's like a G minor 7 and 11. That's actually the head. You know, at the start of A Hard Day's Night. That's the famous chord, G minor 7 and 11.
Right. Okay.
And it was played on a Rickenbacker deliberately with two outputs. You know, we can get what's called a Rico sound. And the whole
Right.
idea is like, I mean, once you know, you know. So if I do like, let me just see if I can do this. It's been a hard day. You see what I mean? David Bowie never covered it.
He should have. He should have. Well, tell you what, Jason.
We
when
have
we're-
a go at quicksand,
when-
and if it falls
when we're,
apart,
when we're playing the next 3 songs, you can mute yourselves and have a little scrum through, and then you can come back and give us
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
we're probably okay in quicksand till we get to the word sinking.
And then it sinks.
Oh, you've been on the beach at Morecambe. You've been
No,
on the
I'm
beach
just
at
trying to go like
Morecambe.
that.
Is it
It'll be in a
recorded- Is this the recorded live at Morecambe Bay version?
Yeah.
When it all falls apart, we need you to carry the song through on the
On the stylophone. Okay, we
on
can
the
do that.
stylophone.
We can do that. We can do that. Go on then.
Oh, right, we're singing it now.
Yeah, go for
Yeah,
it. Come on,
you're
let's
on.
go.
You're
for
on.
it.
You're
Then
there.
we- then Derek,
Jason's
Derek
solo.
can bring
This
sense
song
and purpose.
is,
And now it's
Sense
Jason
and
Bowie.
purpose back.
Yes.
was on that album of when he was doing all these spiritual stuff. And from this album, I learned so much, like who Crowley was, even things like who Himmler was, because obviously I was very young. But also, I must be one of the
My word.
people who learnt who Robert Zimmerman was from a David Bowie song before I'd ever heard a Bob Dylan song. Because that
No
just,
one has heard a Bob Dylan song.
well, that's true. But yeah, so it's that kind of that wider education of all the things he had in his lyrics, because my sisters played them so much. Didn't even know who Robert Zimmerman was until years later. I thought, oh, that's who he was singing about, because he sings it very much in the style of Bob Dylan. Right, tell me when you're ready.
Heather, just before you start singing, you might get some harmony vocals on this, because the one and only last Bee Gees is about to join us.
Hey.
Wow.
Too long. Too long.
Too long. That sounds like a Korean meal.
Too long. No, he's
Chinese
he's
tea.
he's not been with us for a long time. So.
Oh,
Hey,
no.
Brian.
Great to see you.
Uncle
Hello,
BG,
mate.
the one and only BG, are you with us?
Brian,
Brian, are you there? Ground control to
To Major
Uncle
Brian.
Brian.
Ground control
settling down.
to Uncle Brian.
Check your
Put your
ignition.
radio
And may God
on
be
and
with
put
you.
some very
I have no clue what we're talking about.
Bass
Right, mate.
Rose.
Come on then, guys. Let's be treated to. Are you singing this one, Heather?
I'm singing this one, yes.
Go for it. Come on, let's have a bit
Put
of
me
fun.
in.
After one.
2, 3, 4.
I'm closer to the golden dawn, immersed in Crowley's uniform of imagery. I'm living in silent film, portraying Himmler's sacred realm of dream reality. I'm frightened by the total goal, drawing to the ragged hole, and I ain't got the power anymore. No, I ain't got the power anymore. I'm the twisted name on Gobble's eyes, living proof of Churchill's lies. I'm destiny. I'm torn between the light and dark, where others see their target's divine symmetry. Should I kiss the viper's fang, or herald loud the death of man? I'm sinking in the quicksand of my thoughts, and I ain't got the power anymore.
Right, here comes the hard bit.
Don't believe in yourself. Don't deceive with belief. Knowledge comes with death's release.
Go on, Tone, you do it.
started singing.
He's the Rick Wakeman of the stylophone.
D sharp, C flat, G major, F sharp. Just
Yeah,
say
you got it. Oh,
Are we singing?
carry on.
carry on.
Carry on. What a-
Did Bowie ever collapse in fits of laughter and couldn't carry a song on?
Heckled by a styrofoam.
Jason, go on.
Carry
Send the
on,
laughing
come on,
gnome.
guys.
I'm not a prophet or a Stone Age man, just a model with potential of a Superman. I'm living on. I'm tethered to the logic of Homo sapien. Can't take my eyes from the great salvation of bullshit faith. If I don't explain what you want to know, you can tell me all about it on the next Bardot. I'm sinking in the quicksand of my thoughts, and I ain't got the power anymore.
Wow.
Don't believe in yourself, don't deceive with belief. Knowledge comes with death's release. Don't believe in yourself, don't deceive with belief. Knowledge comes with death's release. Styrofoam. Solo, go.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Right.
You know what I think is great about that? It's the fact.
You see why they sold in the millions, can't you?
It sounds like somebody laughing.
Larry the Lamb. Larry the Lamb's just been
Larry the
slaughtered.
Lamb. Yes.
Oh, Mr. Policeman.
Anyway,
I have to
it's-
go.
Yeah,
Tony,
yes.
I have
Okay.
to go.
Go
I've had
on
a great
then.
time,
No,
and
go,
it's
go.
been
Oh, it's
brilliant.
been fabulous.
Derek,
The
thank
one-
you. Thank
The
you
one
as
and only
always.
BG.
Oh,
Everyone,
you
have a
can't-
good evening.
First time.
Whatever you do.
Cheers, Andy.
Great
Mate,
to see you.
take care, fella.
Oh, Andy,
And
bye-bye,
just
love.
one thing. Just
Yeah.
one thing.
Boom.
Don't you know your life
No?
itself?
So, anyway, listen. The one and
Love
only
me, love me,
BG.
love me, say you do.
Ooh.
Let me fly away with you, for my love is like the wind. Wild is the wind. Wild is the wind. Yeah, I always love that bit. I sound like a pub singer. Don't you know your life itself? Hey, shut up, mate. The snooker's on the telly. Okay, good night, everybody. Bye.
Andy,
care, Andy.
Andrew.
mate, see you soon.
So,
Right, Andy.
Jason sent us a video to share in a minute, but before we do that, and before we're going to let Derek do a bit more of the proper show, but the one and only BG,
BG.
whatchamacallit, has
Come in, mate.
drunkenly staggered into the room, I believe.
Come in, mate. Come in.
Is he drunken and staggering, or is he just staggeringly drunk?
No, not drunk, Tony. No.
Oh,
You've been out
Hello,
drinking
mate.
in the heat. You must be drunk. You must be. You must
No,
have
I'm
about
not.
two pints at least.
Well, that's all I had. That's all I had. That's all I had.
Yeah,
But I've just I've done a favour of walking. So
yeah.
Have
Well,
you?
you will have because you live
Yeah.
quite a long way from town. It's uphill.
great
I
to
know.
hear. Great to hear from you, mate. Thank you.
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
bar to bar.
We missed you
We missed
earlier
you.
because
We
we
have
wanted
missed you.
some harmonies on Space Oddity, but there was no one to do it. So yeah,
Missed you for a while, mate. So
yeah.
well,
Oh,
Anyway,
thank you.
So
Thank
the
you.
guy
Paul.
Brian, the guy you don't know is one of my oldest friends, Francis, as his mum and dad called him. But we call him Fran or Frank, and he plays a bit of guitar himself, don't you, Fran?
I do, yeah.
One week you'll have to plug
you
yourself
give
in
it a
and
tune.
give us a tune, you know.
I will.
Yeah, you've been learning a bit of the Police, haven't you?
I
think
have,
you're
that's right. I
Police,
could
yeah.
do a bit of that
Yeah,
for
Well,
everybody.
yeah, that will
Yeah.
well.
Oh, he'd love
Tony,
Sure, yeah.
Francesca said she can't seem to get on the last couple of weeks.
I know,
I don't know what she said. I don't know what's happened.
No,
She said
it's not
without
Francesca.
actually coming on because she's not.
Yeah,
She can't deal with coming on just yet.
yeah.
But
Don't
she,
worry.
She can't
no,
even watch it. She can't watch it.
It's to do with us playing copyrighted material. It cuts every so often. Warner Music or one of them says you're playing one of our songs, go away. But technically, if you come back in, you usually can get
I
it.
must
So,
message your friend actually.
Yeah, she said she's tried. She's tried to get
Yeah,
on it, but she
okay.
said,
Well,
I can't get on it, Dad, without
No.
coming on the screen. And she doesn't want to
okay.
do that
Well,
at
she
the
can
minute.
always come on silent. She can always come on silent.
Yeah. I'll
Anyway,
message
listen.
her anyway and let her know.
Message her and tell her to sign in. She's
I
got
must
the link.
message your friend. How's she
I,
doing?
s- I send the link to her. Tell her just to come on with the screen blacked out, like thingy.
Yeah.
Doesn't Jason do that when they're strumming away in the background? Anyway, listen, we must move on a bit because
Yes, because Derek can do.
I beg your pardon.
we've got Starman waiting for, haven't we?
Hey,
Up next, yeah.
Derek C. Shelmerdine.
Yeah, and we've got the original version of a song called Sorrow, and then we were going to be playing Bowie's version of Ziggy Stardust, but we'll probably only play about 10 seconds because Andy did it proud, didn't he? So Derek,
He did a good job
where
on
are
it.
we up
Yeah,
to?
he
This
did.
is when he became famous now, isn't it? This
Yeah,
is
opportunities now knocking. 24th of June, 1972, Starman entered the UK charts, gave him a number 10, and that was very much where Bowie's career took off from and never looked back, as it were. And I think one of the best album titles of all time, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great title for an album.
It's a
I mean,
super
that's
title.
there now. I mean, Bowie, Mick Ronson, Trevor Baldwin, and Woody Woodmansey, the drummer, and absolute classic lineup.
Where did
And
we
he-
get to with that, Tony, by the way?
Oh
Mick
yeah,
Ronson?
no. Mick Jones, a foreigner, is the stepdad of Mark Ronson, so
Right.
he's not related to
No,
Mick Ronson.
just to tie that one up.
Yeah,
I
I did check. Yeah.
Did you know Bowie couldn't stand the set? You know, the spider on that set.
Oh, the spiders.
And when he
Oh,
finished
yeah.
touring, they threw it into the sea. They all got it and just
Right.
manhandled it into the sea. So check it out. I remember Bowie in an interview saying that.
Yeah.
He hated that. And I loved that. I had the 2 CDs of that, or DVDs. Fabulous.
Yeah.
It's
You know, I
so
thought they were
great
good.
to have you back, mate. I've missed you so much. Come on.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you, Paul. I'm just trying to be busy. You know.
We missed you so much, and
Thank you.
thank you for coming back.
Well, he's out crooning and
I know he's
dancing and-
drinking
Do you
pints
know,
of beer like
he's
I
not-
was
no,
last
no.
week.
he takes flowers up to ladies. He does.
Oh,
He goes out and buys
Way through it.
a bouquet of roses, and he wanders around several bars that he's friends with, and in every one he goes up to a nice lady, says, "This is just for you." The problem is she doesn't know he's been in 8 other pubs.
No, they don't mind, Tony. I mean, I did it
bet they
tonight.
don't, Brian. I bet they don't. I bet you light
I
up their
gave
line.
I gave a dozen roses to a lady tonight.
A dozen. You're only meant to give
dozen?
11. You've only meant to give 11 because they're the
No,
12. aren't they?
well, and you know, just little things.
how much do they cost? Dear me, how?
Not a lot.
If
Not a lot.
you've got the right neighbours,
I
it
have
doesn't cost
friends.
anything.
I
If
have
you've got the right
friends.
neighbours' gardens, it doesn't cost anything.
I know.
You need a pair of scissors.
They're all out of your garden, Tony.
We've got my mum. We've got loads of roses in the garden actually.
I have actually
Big,
as well.
big fan.
Zoe, don't get any ideas.
You're meant to give them 11 and put the other one between your lips and pretend you're Rudolph
Exactly.
Valentine.
Between me lips,
I will send you some. I promise.
So you said between my legs, then, Tony.
No, your
I'm
lips.
not doing that.
Pretend,
With all
pretend
those
you're Rudolph.
stones.
Pretend you're Rudolph Valentino, lad. You should know this.
I don't have to pretend, Tony.
Oh, there's a
Oh.
thing, isn't it? Anyway,
No,
come on, Derek.
I've always been like that since a little boy. Always.
That's lovely.
always.
Smashing, mate. It's smashing.
Anyway, guys, let's all let
Let's
Uncle Derek. Peter
Uncle
Smith,
Derek, yes.
the story of Ziggy and onwards to America, the lad insane, Diamond Dogs, Rebel, which we're not playing. We're not playing
I'm a
it.
dog. Remember that.
So, Derek, over to you.
Yeah, he went over to America for the first time in the September of '72, And then around that time, he released his second, well, not his second album. He had his second hit album with Honky Dory. Rick Wakeman again on the piano. And that's where the Quicksand track comes from. An absolutely fabulous track. And very much, as you were saying earlier, a reference to Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and sort of all things occult. So, I mean, I think one of the best songs he ever did, that personally. And he had his first American hit as well with Space Oddity. Gave him number 15 in '73. And then we had a slight change of alter ego. And Aladdin Sane arrived with his fifth hit album. And that was the name itself to sort of play on the words of Alad Insane. And part of that was possibly a reference to his brother, technically part brother, who had a few mental problems and actually killed himself.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently. And Ziggy Stardust had their final appearance at the Odeon on the 3rd of July, '73. And that was when Ainsley Dunbar, shortly afterwards, Ainsley Dunbar replaced Mick Woodmansey. And as
So
you said earlier,
the whole Ziggy Stardust thing, if you can just ask a quick question on that. It was reasonably short-lived. What do you think he was trying to achieve by doing that?
well, it was certainly short-lived. It was only a year or so, a couple of years maybe. I think it was just for Bowie. I think it was, in this life you need talent, you need determination, but you need luck, as the '60s showed. I mean, David Bowie, some of that stuff we heard in the earlier part of the show. I mean, it was classic beat music, and at least as good and better than an awful lot of songs that were hits in '62, '63, '64, '65. But he never quite cracked it. He tried lots of different bands, lots of different genres, lots of different approaches without any success. And I think, the gods were smiling on it when glam rock emerged, and it just fitted him perfectly. If you look back to his second album, the androgynous, lying on the chaise longue in a dress. I mean, that pretty commonplace now, all that kind of thing. But back then, I mean, that was absolutely something that, was unheard of. And his first gigs with Hype, when he basically adopted what became glam, sort of just pre-glam, as it were, absolutely no response whatsoever. And then, the planets aligned, and it all worked out, and glam became very popular. Lots of other Bolan and Sweets and other people drove the genre on, and Bowie it just suited him down the ground. So in a way, I think, it was absolutely right place, right time. And then he kept on reinventing himself afterwards. I mean, the Aladdin Sane was essentially, I think, still very much the same sort of area of alter ego.
I suppose what I would say about Bowie was the fact that he did reinvent himself, but he didn't seem to have, like when you did the Floyd thing, when you did the Floyd experience of a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Bowie, to me, didn't seem to have a defining album. So you talk about Floyd, and they had, Brick in the Wall and all that sort of stuff. Bowie just seemed to keep going. He just plowed through it.
Yeah, I think he had 2 or 3 landmarks. I mean, Ziggy Stardust has got to be a sort of landmark in the it started off. But I also, when we get to the trilogy, the Berlin trilogy, the Heroes album, I mean, that got an awful lot of critical acclaim.
Excuse me, everyone. I'm sorry. I've got to go out.
Of course you can, mate.
Okay, mate.
Never worry.
Lovely to meet you.
It's always a dip in, dip out thing. Never worry, mate. Never worry.
No, lovely to meet you.
It's Songs and Stories of Wales next week.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so if you,
we're
if you
in
want
Wales
to,
next
if you
one,
want to
okay.
play, Orca the killer whale on the guitar.
I didn't know what a whale could sing, Tony.
Yeah,
No.
now I'll play you. I can play you a bit of a whale
Do you want,
sing.
do you want some
Aerosmith,
Max
No,
Bullish
they
next
make
one?
noises.
Aerosmith opened one of them albums with whale songs.
You can do
Really?
Be nice to meet everybody.
Yeah. Oh,
Cheerio.
get your guitar out
Bye
next
bye.
week. Frank,
Take
Okay.
care, mate.
guitar out
Lovely to
next
see
week,
you.
lads. Bye, matey.
Cheers.
Bye,
Bye
now.
bye.
Yeah, fella. Bye now.
You were saying then, you were saying about Bowie laying on a rock or something with the dress on.
Yeah.
Right, well-
Sold the world, is it? Or...
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that wasn't Bowie. That
Wasn't
was a stand-in. That was Tony.
Oh, could well have been.
Tony was
nicer
the
legs.
stand-in for
Listen,
that.
I've got nicer legs than David Bowie, but I've never really.
I know, I've seen them, Tony. When you lift that skirt up, I've seen your legs. They are nice.
Indeed. Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Gibbo, we missed you, mate. We missed you.
So go on, Derek. We're up to Starman.
Yeah, then Pinups, of course, a great album, lots of fabulous covers, and not least of which Sorrow, of course, Mersey's original. And then came Diamond Dogs. I mean, I think that's another great Bowie album in the summer of '74. That was his 7th UK hit. And apparently he conceived that as a theatrical version of Orwell's 1984, but the family wouldn't give him permission to actually do it. And that's where Rebel Rebel, of course, comes from. And Herbie Flowers plays bass. I mean, he was mentioned earlier, of course, there's the bass line on Lou Reed's Legend, exactly. And Ainsley Dunbar, of course, drums there. And Rebel Rebels pretty much considered to be the end of Bowie's glam era. And, that's really where he started to move on to pastures green, as it were.
So we're going to have a bit of Starman. And
Go on, Tony, you're going to sing it.
I wish I could. I can't sing. I really wish I could. So Starman, then the original version of Sorrow.
Yes.
The Merseys. We'll have a quick blast of Bowie's version and then a quick blast of Ziggy. But I think we need Starman because it's a gem.
Absolutely.
Didn't know what time it was, the lights were low. I leaned back on my radio. Some cat was laying down some rock and roll, that is all he said. Then the loud sound, it seemed to fade. Came back like a slow voice on a wave of fate. That wasn't no DJ, that was hazy cosmic jive. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. He told me, let the children lose it, let the children use it, let all the children do get. I had to phone someone, so I picked on you. Hey, that's far out, so you heard him too. Switch on the TV, we may pick him up on channel 2. Look out your window, I can see his light. If we can sparkle, he may land tonight. Don't tell your papa, or he'll get us locked up and fight. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's all worthwhile. the devil's daughter. Sorrow, sorrow.
Oh, wow.
Too long blonde hair and your eyes are blue. The only thing I ever got from you was sorrow. Sorrow. You're acting funny, trying to spend my money. You're out there playing your high-class games of sorrow. Sorrow. You never do what you know you ought to. Something tells me you're the devil's daughter. Sorrow. Sorrow.
Oops.
That's very Ocean Coliseum.
Ziggy played guitar, jamming good with Weird and Gilly and the Spiders from Mars. He played it left hand, but made it too far. Became the special man. Then we were Ziggy's band. Ziggy really sang. Screwed up eyes and a screwed down hairdo, like some cat from Japan. He could lick 'em by smiling, he could leave 'em to hang. They came on so loaded, man, well hung in snow white tan. So where were the spiders while the fly tried to break our bones? Or just the beer like to guide us? So we bitched about his fans and should we crush his sweet hands? Ziggy played for time, jiving us that we were voodoo. The kids were just crass, he was the Nas with God-given ass. He took it all too far, but boy could he play guitar. Making love with his ego, Ziggy sucked up into his mind, like a leper messiah. When the kids had killed a man, I had to break up the oh yeah.
So that was
Wow.
that was
Wow.
cool. Zoe's whatever's died. Oh no, she's still there. Oh, she might not be. He's still there. Batteries are dying. Batteries are dying, which is probably symptomatic with the hot weather as well.
It's called the heat.
It's called the
Probably.
heat, man. So Derek,
Heat, man.
we're going all funk now, aren't we? It's all funky do.
Yeah,
Say what you say.
he moves on at a
hunky-dory.
pace again. He moves on at a pace again now. And back end of 74, He had his 8th UK hit album with David live, and now he's back with Tony Visconti again. But
He
apparently
made up with
Bowie-
him.
I'm sorry?
He made up with him.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, they were all bosom buddies again. And then he worked more or less on most of, or certainly a great number of Bowie's albums from there and in. But apparently neither of them liked the Bowie and Visconti, neither Bowie or Visconti liked the David Live album. And of course we get yet another alter ego with the Thin White Duke. Arrived with the Young Americans, really. We're in mid 75 now. Apparently the album was originally going to be called The Gooster, which is slang for a cool guy, by all accounts.
Okay. Wow.
The Thin White Duke was interesting. It sort of adapted during the tour for the Young Americans. But the Thin White Duke's mentioned in the title track to Station. And I love this line. The line is, the return of the Thin White Duke throwing darts in lovers' eyes.
Lovely.
Oh,
Pretty heavy duty line, I think.
Yeah,
my word.
To the
Just a
imagination.
bit. Wow.
And
Whoa.
one of the songs, again, we're in the summer of 65 now. The songs around now is Fame, which he did a collaboration with John Lennon on. And it's on the Young Americans album. And apparently what it is, the lyrics and all the rest of it, are very much a middle finger up to the previous management company, Mainman Management. It appears they didn't really hit it off. And Bowie is now at #1 in the UK for the first time with, surprise, surprise, that Space Oddity pops up again. I mean, the song just hits so many different parts of.
Can I just check
career.
something?
Yeah,
with you,
sure.
Derek? Is it Space Oddity or Space Odyssey? Because
Oddity.
Oddity.
Yeah,
Look,
Odyssey
I've
is the
heard
movie, the
both.
Stanley Kubrick movie.
Right.
The
Right.
song is definitely Oddity, OWDITY.
Right. Yeah. Just a personal thing, just to check that.
Yeah.
Deal. I mean, fine. They were lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, it gave him his first #1. It actually gave him his first American hit as well. And then the Station to Station album is an interesting one. When he toured this, apparently at the beginning of each gig, he would screen just a 16-minute short film from Louis Buñuel and Salvador Dali. And it's a very highly rated sort of art film called my accent is probably not going to be too good, but Un Chien Andalou, which basically just means an Andalusian dog. But that's the short where very famously the razor blade comes out and slits across the eye. I mean, it's a well-known film, and interestingly enough, a lot of Bowie's fans, of course, wouldn't have seen that before. And he decided to kick off the gigs with that showing. Interesting guy. I mean, it's just so much going on all the time in different directions. And also in 76, he made the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth, because he did make half a dozen or so sort of feature movies. Just a Gigolo in 78, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence in 83, Labyrinth in 86, and one or two
And then,
others.
of course, he was involved in the whole Live Aid thing as well, wasn't he? Which was
Well, we were going to play Dancing in the Street, but I don't know if I've got it. We might have to YouTube that. And don't forget, we've got Jason sent us a link for something we'll play after these three ones we're playing in a minute. So carry on, Derek. Carry on.
Well, that's it, Tony. I think we're at the music interlude.
Bit of music interlude. This is a cover, another
Could
cover
grab a
version.
cup or a
You
beer
don't
or
always
something.
really always know that people do covers. I mean, we do know now, but at the time, not everybody would have known that songs were covers. They don't always know where they've come from.
Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither wildly as they slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy, hard drifting through my open mind, possessing and caressing me. Nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world.
Beautiful.
Nothing's gonna change my world. Nothing's gonna change my world. There's a broken light which starts before me like a million eyes. They call me on and on across the universe. Force me under like a restless wind inside. Makes a man take things over. Fame lets him loose, hard to swallow. Fame puts you there where things are hollow. Fame that your brain is just the flame that puts you to keep you in a shame. What you like is in the liver.
Yes.
Golden years. Golden years. Don't let me hear you say life's taking you nowhere. Look at that sky, life's begun. Nights are warm and the days are young. There's my baby lost, that's all. Once I'm begging you, save a little soul. Last night they loved you, opening doors and pulling some strings. Angel, in walk luck and you looked in time. Never look back, walk tall, act fine. I'll stick with you, baby, for 1,000 years. Nothing's gonna touch you in these golden years. Golden years. Some of these days and it won't be long. Gonna drive back down where you once belonged. In the back of a dream car, 20 foot long. Don't cry, my sweet, don't break my heart. Doing all right, you've gotta get smart. Wish upon day upon day. I believe, oh Lord, I believe all the way. Run for the shadows, run for the shadows, run for the shadows in these golden years. There's my baby lost, that's all. Once I'm begging you, save a little golden years.
Clever song, actually.
What a,
isn't it?
what a wonderful song, and I'm so
Sort
pleased
of
you played it because
disco with a bit of rap, with a bit of
well,
funk.
you might have heard me shout yes.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
we
I did.
heard you. Yeah, yeah.
And there's a reason I shouted yes because that particular song relates to a great radio moment of life where a man called Brian Johnston, who was well known for Creek commentary for many, many years.
Oh, I know him, yeah.
Used to do a program called Down Your Way.
That's right.
And at one time he came to Hay-on-Wye, which is not a million miles from where I'm talking to you now.
Yeah.
And he went to interview a man called Richard Booth. Richard Booth was rather eccentric. He's passed away now, but he declared UDI and he used to send people out to, represent Hay-on-Wye. He basically bought 6 bookshops and opened them up and sold every second-hand bookshops. And he just bought bookshops and sold books for the life. And Brian Johnston went to interview him for Down Your Way. And the format of the program was this, that they had to choose 3 pieces of music to play. They were all pre-recorded, so of course you couldn't take all the records with you. So they could come back and they'd play in the music they wanted. And unfortunately, what happened was this. Richard was rather eccentric, and Brian happened to catch his eye. And he corpsed, what we call in the business, he corpsed, he laughed. And he kept laughing, and he couldn't say it. He wanted Golden Years or anything by David Bowie. And it took him about 7 takes to say this, because he was just corpsing, he was laughing for whatever reason. There was no reason to it. And even when you listen back to it now, you laugh yourself because you think, what the hell is he laughing about, but it was a marvelous thing. And so I'm so delighted you played that. Revived a great memory.
Great track.
Derek does his best to please all with music and selections. It's done with love and science, isn't it, Derek? Wasn't that the album
you should work in radio, Derek.
Bowie didn't release in '78. Yeah,
great start.
Oh no, Sound and Vision was the album he released. Sorry, or the song he released, wasn't it? I'm mixing up my Bowies. Yeah. Anyway, Heather and Jason, are you going to entertain us with anything?
Well, no, we've given you a link to play.
Oh, we can do that. Shall we do that? Let's do that.
So there's so many people who were influenced by David Bowie. Jason's just looking through the list of them. And,
it's a huge list.
Like people like Lady Gaga's done a whole thing, and obviously famously Nirvana. But one of the things that's really important from my kids' point of view is, and you may have heard of the TV series. There's a TV series called Horrible Histories.
We know.
Brilliant series, which is all about history of everything, really. But one of the songs that was done in there was about Charles Darwin, and it was done. And what Horrible Histories did really, really well, and still do, they take genres of music and put a historical facts against them.
And they alter the structure of the song, but you can clearly hear what song it is they're playing.
So rather
they
than
totally changed it around.
So rather than pick like a Nirvana tribute of David Bowie, I thought this is really good. And the other thing is, if you learn the words of this song, it's a whole unit of GCSE biology.
Okay.
It's an interesting listen anyway if you're a David Bowie fan.
Oh, no, let's have a listen.
Let's hear it. Let's
have a listen. So we're after this. Here we go.
People thought all animals arrived here unrelated. The world began and then came man, all perfectly created. But then someone looked up a tree and said that monkey looks just like me. So it really was a mystery what I'd learned in natural history. So I joined HMS Beagle, watched the eagle and the seagull. We studied rocks and plants, flowers, trees and bees and ants. Slept on hammocks without pillows, eating rats and armadillos, till I realised on reflection it's natural selection.
Natural selection means each animal evolved to blend with its surroundings. Changes were involved, so birds with different foods to seek soon had developed different beaks, and over time they'd modified, so just the fittest of them all survived. On the Isles of Galapagos, I noted the giant tortoise had interesting shells, and I rode on them as well. Iguanas land and swimming meant my new theory was winning. It all led in the direction of natural selection. My findings met with outrage from the Church of England and from me. The idea that we came from chimps questioned my own Christianity, but it was hard to disagree. Every species' new mutation had a perfect explanation. It seemed the world's inception must predate common perception, and in lack of adaptation is a fatal limitation. So each creature's imperfection over time gets a correction, meaning animal collections grow unique means of protection, and to fail nature's inspection means immediate rejection, which all leads to the detection of natural selection. Natural selection.
That's brilliant.
Isn't it well done?
Extraordinary song.
Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, it's like starting again now.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it
Would be
literally
worth
what's the
watching it played
word?
again. That was fabulous, wasn't it?
That's the GCSE curriculum for biology for that, but just such a good.
Can I just bust in a moment there?
Of course you can, Macca.
This character just shown here, I have been watching and enjoying, recommended by the way, it's on Netflix at the moment, series called Salvation. The main character is a British Argentinian actor called Santana something or other. And at one point, at the episode I'm just watching today, he disguises himself as a mad scientist from Argentina. And that was exactly the character he played.
But a really good homage to David. I mean, they do other people as well. They do things like Adamant and the Smiths. I think they've and
Kate Bush, yeah.
Kate Bush. But that one just I just thought it was so appropriate rather than playing one of the usual.
I like it. I really like that.
Fabulous.
And it taught my kids about natural selection at the end of the day.
Well, you two have got about half an hour to get one more song learnt, so you know.
We'll have a think. It might not be David Bowie related. We'll have a think.
Well, what are the ones we're not playing tonight? We're not playing Dancing in the Street. I was going to play Under Pressure, but you can always do that if you want.
We all know it.
Well, there's a really interesting song because,
the interesting thing about Under Pressure is, I think Derek might correct me on this, but I think David Bowie is more responsible for Under Pressure than Queen are. Derek, have you knowledge of it? Isn't it David Bowie's studio that Queen wanted to rent to record whichever album it was? Kind of Magic, was it? Was it Kind of Magic? They rented his studio and he was there and he was playing around in the studio. Basically, they collaborated and wrote Under Pressure. But if you listen to the version, because it came out on the David Bowie album before it came out on the Queen album. Hot Space, it was Hot Space, wasn't it? It was earlier, it was Hot Space. It was on Hot Space by Queen, and the production on the Queen one is a lot louder. So if we do play the version from the David Bowie release, I can't remember which album it is now, it's the same song, but it's a different tone and volume. So Derek, do you know anything?
Really interesting.
Do you know anything about it, Derek? And is that one?
No, I don't. I don't actually, mate. No.
But you do know a little bit about Berlin, don't you? Where he lived more in Switzerland than Berlin. That's the irony of the whole situation, isn't it?
Well, what happened was in 1976, he relocated from LA. He got a little bit over enthusiastic with the Chilean marching powder, and he decided he needed a break from all that. So
Bolivian
took
nose candy, as we also call it.
exactly. So he decided he'd go off to Berlin. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there are 3 albums in the Berlin trilogy. Low Heroes, they both came out in '77, and Lodger, which came out in '79. And again, it marked a bit of a landmark in Bowie's career. He'd always been a painter, as well as an actor, a singer, a writer, and all the rest of it. 'Cause he was writing a book of short stories at one point. He was actually a painter, and while he was in Germany, he did quite a lot of paintings, and he got a very post-expressionist style. And
didn't he
I
make
was
a lot of
reading.
money from his art? Didn't he?
Well, it's interesting. When I was this afternoon, as I was just checking something out on the art side, I can't remember which painting it was, but it said it had a reserve of £3,000 to £4,000 on it, and it sold for £20,000. So obviously he's quite popular with that.
And wasn't Bowie the first person to sell their back catalogue to the marketing people?
No. But Bowie's wasn't sold until. In fact, it was Bowie's estate that sold Bowie's catalogue.
Oh, was it? Oh, I thought it was when he was.
No, I mean, Elvis sold his to RCA in '73. Well, the Beatles didn't so much sell theirs.
I thought his went to KFC.
Who's?
Elvis.
Oh,
sold his to KFC.
Quite right. It should have done. There's no two ways about that. And the Beatles, of course, lost theirs rather than sold it in '69.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that Dylan sold his as well. When Bowie sold his back catalogue, he got a reputed $250 million.
Mad, isn't it?
And when Dylan sold his in 2020, that was 2021 he sold his, or the estate sold his. When Dylan sold his back catalogue in 2020, he only got $200 million. I mean, only.
He was lucky.
Yeah. Well, Elvis only got 10 million.
All? Yes.
Yeah. No, but what's interesting is that Bowie's back catalogue sold for more than Dylan's did.
Yeah.
You know, there's no comparison, really. Think of the.
I always remember.
It's quality over quantity, Derek. It's quality over quantity.
I always remember Liam Clancy telling a story. Liam Clancy was a great friend of Bob Dylan because they were sort of similar. They came from similar backgrounds. They were really great friends over many years. And there was one occasion where they had about 30 pints of Guinness or whatever it was, which is enough to sink anybody. And Bob at the end of it said, Liam, don't worry, no fear, no envy. And that's where that's because they had a mutual respect for each other.
Yeah.
And he said this thing, no fear, no envy. Dylan was a shocker. I mean, he was an absolute shocker in terms of he couldn't tune guitar worth damn. The amount of times that Liam Clancy said, I've seen him going, you know, I had to show him how to tune guitar or do whatever. But he was a shocker. But he became this great man of the people. And then obviously he went electric and all that stuff. I mean, all the issue with that. In fact, he was ostracized and this and that. But Clancy was a great friend of his. And the funny thing about Liam Clancy was the fact that he hated his own voice, though he had a decent voice, but he could play. He could play guitar, he could play any instrument. Give him an instrument, he could play.
That's the thing, isn't it? With some people that they've got such depth of talent, really. I mean, it's like our friend Jason. Jason can play many things.
To be polite about it, he ticked off, I think, his own brothers because they thought, oh, well, we're older than you, we know what we're doing. And then he came along and here's this young fella who's brash young fella, and he can play and do and sing, and they're sort of, what are you about? You know, you're the baby sort of thing, you know. And I think that caused a bit of a stir through the years with those guys. And it must have been tough having a family of brothers making a group, which they did. But there it is. Anyway, I should leave you alone.
But and also, I mean, the other thing about where we're at with the Bowie story that Derek's going to pick up on now is we've got Sound and Vision, which is another sort of funk disco-y sort of one. Then we've got Heroes coming up. Now, Heroes is an anthem. It's so different than where he's been at any point before. It's a real stadium filling anthem. I mean, the version that King Crimson do, by the way, if you want to see a live version of Heroes, not by Bowie, go and see King Crimson on YouTube.
Yeah, they
Their
do a good
version
version.
is just
Yeah, I've
unreal
seen
with
it.
Robert Fripp on guitar. And then you've got the end of the Starman Space Oddity trilogy with Ashes to Ashes. You know, when he's all dressed up in his tin hat, walking on the moon, like he's in Button Moon from the 80s.
And Button Moon, dear God.
TV. Yeah. Was
Remember
Ashes to
that?
Ashes an actual #1, Derek, or not? Have I imagined? Was it a #1?
I don't know if
Ashes
Zoe.
to Ashes.
I don't know.
It was his first actual real #1.
Yeah.
Because his first #1 was Space Oddity, but that was essentially a re-entry.
Okay.
Ashes to Ashes was his first #1, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if Zoe's still with us, but I bet
No,
she
she's not, mate. She's not.
She's
Batteries. Batteries
gone.
died. Yeah.
Gone.
Gibbo's opened his eyes again. He'd nodded off. Poor Gibbo.
Gibbo. Fantastic, mate.
I think he went running around the garden chasing moonbeams or something.
I just heard the name Gibbo, so I thought I better put my earphones on.
Have you woken up? Have you woken up again or not? Because we thought you'd gone for lie down under the moon.
We missed you so much, mate. It's been so fabulous to have you back.
Better plug myself in, hadn't I?
We have. We missed you so much.
Gibbo, just so you know, next Sunday is Welsh night.
Welsh.
Stories, words, and music from Wales.
Okay.
Well, we've done England, Scotland, and Ireland, so we must do well.
Yeah, no, of course we
Wales,
might as well
you know.
do Wales. Of course we might as well do Wales. Yeah. So Derek,
Boris-
tell us what
Boris Johnson's done all that, hasn't he? He's done all.
Listen, we can evict people from Zoom. You know, you can be evicted.
Oh no, you wouldn't do
We
it.
have Derek and I have the power. We have the button.
No,
we have the red light button.
Don't
The
do
magic
it.
button.
We
Don't
can
do
magic.
it.
We can
Don't
magic
do it.
button anyone who swears live online.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
be
No, don't do
evicted.
it to him.
Yeah, if you
Don't
ever
do it
say
to
the
him.
words buffoon, clown, and piffle again, then that's it. You're out.
Don't do it. Don't do it to him.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Uncle Brian. Don't. So, Derek,
I won't.
Sound and Vision, Heroes, Ashes to Ashes. Tell us what we need to know.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting era, this. I mean, as well as all this interesting rock and roll stuff. I mean, this is around the time that he did the Bing Crosby Merry Old Christmas TV show.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
yes.
Otherwise,
Christmas.
You know,
Just
I mean,
like
the guy just does so many different things. And it is just a gigolo film again, you know, late 70s now. That was Marlene and Dietrich.
Was that
final
is that where
movie.
the old Robert Pom Pom, the old came across when he got in touch with Bing, doing the old the Christmas hit they had together, Peace on Earth or whatever they call it these
Little
days.
Drummer Boy, wasn't it?
Yes,
It was Little
Drummer
Drummer Boy, Peace on Earth. It wasn't actually a UK hit for 2 or 3 years. It was 82. It was actually a hit in the UK because that Christmas show went out in the 77. And again, he met great acclaim for his portrayal of John Merrick in The Elephant Man.
Yes, he did
sort of
a
off-Broadway.
super job on that.
Yeah. And what happened, he's recording Scary Monsters in New York. he popped in to catch a show, and the guy that was playing Merrick was leaving. So the director asked him if he'd take over the role.
Step
And he
in,
did for a few months. And he got good reviews for it. And another thing about now, 1980, was, I mean, John Lennon sadly murdered by Mark Chapman. But apparently Mark Chapman's been recorded as saying that if he missed John Lennon, the next person he was going after was Bowie. Which I thought was...
really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
apparently.
interesting.
It is a recorded, recorded thing, that. So I guess it's, at some point he must have said that. But I mean, I think John Lennon was a fairly random target. So you can imagine if he didn't get Lennon, again, I mean, Bowie was a very flamboyant character. For someone like Chapman, he'd probably make an ideal target, as it were.
I always feel for Andy Peebles, who did that marvelous interview with Radio 1. And then John said, look, I enjoyed that so much, take you to dinner. And that was it. And when they left the dinner, they went to some restaurant in downtown New York, and walking back, and Chapman's done him. And Andy's in his hotel, just grabbing a couple hours kip before he flies back with the interview, total recorded. And he gets a call from London saying, you might want to talk about this because he's not here, and Andy Peebles never really recovered from that.
I recorded that. I've got that on my tape in my living room.
It's available on CD as well.
BBC. I've still got it.
Yeah.
Andy Peebles and John Lennon.
And bless him. I mean, Andy, I think he's retired now. I don't know where he is, but he is a great presenter, great radio man. I think.
Didn't he just go back to live on a street in Glasgow?
I've got a feeling you might be right. I don't know per se, but yeah, Peebles was. He presented what they used to have that was a network show for the north of England.
The
whole of the north of England.
Really well, yeah.
From Manchester. He used to do it from the old Oxford Road studios before they closed them. And it used to go out right across the north of England. I used to get it up in Newcastle on our local station. They used to take it. And he used to broadcast right across the north. Basically from the Scottish borders to the Welsh borders.
Mm-hmm.
And do this 10 stations right across the whole of the north. And he used to do it I did it for about 18 months. Then he went off and somebody else came in. But anyway, Andy Peebles was great, a great man.
Right. So Derek, are we hitting the play button? Have we got?
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think we should.
It's music time.
A bit of a muzak, as it's called in the
in the lift.
In the lift, yeah. Going down.
is a fact.
Do you remember Agatha Speed?
I do.
Such another song. I've heard a rumor from ground control. Oh no, don't say it's true. They
Okay.
got a message from the action man. I'm happy, hope you're happy too. I've loved all I've needed love. Saw the details fall away. The shrieking when nothing is killing, just pictures of chap girls in synthesis. And I ain't got no money and I ain't got no hands. But I'm hoping to kick because planet is glowing. Ashes to ash and funk to funky. We know Major Tom's a junkie, strung out in heaven's high, hitting an all-time low.
Isn't this where we made a TV series about a detective?
Yes.
That's the second series.
Was it
Ashes
the
to
second
Ashes.
one? Yeah, yeah. There's meant to be a new one coming, apparently. Yeah.
They
Don't know where
promised
they're gonna-
that, and they.
I don't know where they're going to pick it up and take it to, but there's meant to be a new one.
I would
probably
love
set-
to be a
probably
new one
set
because
in-
those two series
in-
were absolutely
Oh, they
magic.
were stunning, absolutely. And that end scene when he played Heaven by Talking Heads
Yeah.
was just like the best, wasn't it? Really. So, Jason, Heather, we're winging our way back into the warmth of what Jason? What are you
Eastern
looking
England.
at?
He's saying, I think I've got a heat stroke.
Yeah,
He's
we're
got
going to
heat
need your
stroke.
help again, Tony.
What album was that on?
Oh. Well, we're going to go right back to that 1967 album for two things. Well, first of all, we're going to do one song, but before we do, there's a song that David Bowie did on that album called She's Got Medals.
Oh, yeah.
One of the first ones where he talks about gender differences.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll read it out as a poem if that's okay. It might take
super.
Absolutely.
So if he stops playing that in my ear. So, because the song is actually spoken, a lot of it is spoken. So, here we go, I'll do my best. She walked through the door and she set up the drinks on the house. She played a good game of darts and the men slapped her back, never took her out. She wore a trench coat khaki. Her hobnail boots were full of holes. And this is where it goes. She's got medals. Her mother called her Mary. She changed her name to Tommy. She's a one. She went and joined the army, passed the medical. Don't ask me how it's done. They sent her to the front line, fighting in her country's name. She's got medals. She got very tired of picking up girls, cleaning her gun and shaving her curls. Then the enemy dropped a bomb. Survivors there were none. This is a 1960s riff, you can imagine. People say that when the moon is full and all the stars have gone to bed, you can see a ghost, but that's a lie because the naughty woman isn't dead. She deserted the previous morning, replaced her uniform with dresses, silk and green, called herself Eileen, came to London town. Now she's settled down. She's got medals. So that's that one. It just shows that he was already thinking about that, maybe before it was acceptable almost. And I think,
do you know the moniker he never used? Because we had Aladdin Sane and the Thin White Duke and Ziggy Stardust. He never performed as androgyny.
no, you should have done.
That's a
shouldn't
drag queen's name, isn't it?
RuPaul featuring David Bowie as androgyny.
Yeah. But he's really before his time, really, with things like that.
Oh, too right he was.
Really amazing. So the next one we're going to do is also off that album, which we've not really practiced very much because he's saying that, but it's been too hot.
It's definitely been too hot, Heather. Definitely.
I think the one thing about David Bowie, if you listen to all his songs, they've all got a story. There's always a story. It's not just like a chorus and a verse and a chorus and a verse. There's always a story or something magical. And as I say,
There's always a hook. That's the thing, isn't it? That you're right with that. That they've got proper stories to tell. But
and I think if you look right back to this very first album that was under his name, if you like, it was a lot of stories. And as I keep saying, my sister got me into David Bowie. I was only, born in 1967. So by the time that Ziggy Stardust was coming out, I'd be 6. So it's really down to my sister, and I'd probably listen to them out of order. Which is so I would have listened to this 1967 album earlier because they're more like fairy stories and nursery rhymes, and then the more sort of Queen Bitch type things, I probably wouldn't have been able to listen to those stories at least 12, 13. So anyway, this one is Come and Buy My Toys, which you'll have to bear with us because we've not done this one ever before.
Oh, fabulous.
Smiling girls and rosy boys, come and buy my little toys. Monkeys made of gingerbread and sugar horses painted red. Rich men's children running past, their fathers dressed in hose. Golden hair and mud of many acres on their shoes. Gazing eyes and running wild, past the stocks and over stiles. Kiss the wind, oh merry child, but come and buy my toys. You've watched your father plough the fields with a ram's horn, sowed it wide with peppercorn and furrowed with a bramble thorn. Reaped it with a sharpened scythe, threshed it with a quill. The miller told your father that he'd work it with the greatest will. Now your watching's over, you must play with girls and boys. Leave the parsley on the stalls, but come and buy my toys. You shall own a cambric shirt, you shall work your father's land, but now you'll play in the marketplace till you'll be a man. Smiling girls and rosy boys, come and buy my little toys. Monkeys made of gingerbread and sugar horses painted red. There you go. Bit of a wobble in the middle there.
That's lovely. Absolutely lovely. I mean, there's a real rolling narrative melody in that, though, isn't there? It's definitely.
I just think it's so sad that
Like you said, it's a rondel. It's a nursery rhyme, isn't it?
Well, that whole early stuff, which has got some beautiful, beautiful folk-derived songs, has just been knocked out of the park because of the Laughing Gnome, which just put everybody a bad take, and it's that sort of music. And it's so sad because there are some fantastic songs with that really early stuff, where he was writing stories, if you like, that whole genre.
Yeah, no, definitely. Sorry, I've just replied. I've got a friend who's been trying to watch us for a while, and like Francesca said, the problem is every time we play a copyrighted song, the video drops off.
Right.
I don't know if you've got to come back in or we've got to reshare. I'm going to have to look into it actually. Anyway, so we're up to the stuff where we all sort of re-woke up and realised that David Bowie was pretty cool, really. Like I played Let's Dance at the start, and he and Tin Machine. I saw him live with Tin Machine at the Liverpool Royal Course. There were only about 500 people there. It was bonkers. they didn't open upstairs. It was only downstairs that was open, and they were really good. They were loud, but they were really good. And he smoked the entire gig. He smoked, yeah. He played saxophone a lot. They only played about 3 Bowie songs, but they were really good. And proto punk or Nirvana-esque, I think Derek said earlier. It's very much the thing. But you're not letting me play Let's Dance properly, are you? You picked another song, Derek, haven't you, for this period of?
Yeah, I thought Ricochet was quite an interesting one. But I mean, Let's Dance. I mean, they're all good stuff from then.
Oh,
I mean, it's interesting
album.
now.
Great album.
Yeah, I mean, the 80s was quite an interesting time for Bowie. I mean, he released a press conference, a release to say that he was doing a world tour, a new album. That's the first world tour for 5 years. That was 1983, and Let's Dance was the album, and Serious Moonlight was the tour. Let's Dance gave him a #1 album, so he did well, and he's still doing great covers. In '83, he had a minor hit with White Light, White Heat.
Oh yeah, well that was
Velvet Underground song.
Yeah, Velvet Underground. Yeah, we're going to play that, aren't we? I think.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Good opportunity to play a Velvet Underground song.
Yeah.
But then Tin Machine came along, and that was completely different. It wasn't another alter ego. It was in fact exactly the opposite. It was basically Bowie just becoming a frontman, a singer, in a rock and roll band where all of the parts are equal, as it were. And it was sort of proto grunge sound, very raw. The first album got a lot of acclaim, quite rated, very few overdubs. And as you said, what happened is it complete change with Tin Machine. He basically wasn't playing Bowie songs. He was playing some covers and Tin Machine's own songs, playing small venues. It's a bit like punk in a way. But the problem was the Tin Machine were losing money and Bowie was going broke. And EMI wanted out, and in fact, EMI and Bowie parted company at the end of 1990. Now, to rectify his bank balance situation, that was when he did the Sound and Vision tour and box set, and the tour was advertised as Bowie retiring his back catalogue. So he was very keen to bring all the fans in to hear the songs live for the last time, and it filled the coffers again. Bowie was back in the Easy Street situation. And Tin Machine in '91 did a second album, they reformed, but they'd lost a lot of the original magic. And I think the problem was then, I mean, whereas the first was sort of proto-grunge, your Nirvanas and the like actually came onto the scene and the real sort of grunge was there. And it never really recovered the magic of the Tin Machine one. But I did love the title of their one live album in '92. And the live album's called Oy Vey, Baby. But it didn't get good reviews, apparently. And he revived his, then after that, he resumed his solo career with Real Cool World. And that gave him a 53. So, he goes from #1 albums to singles at number 53 in the charts. I mean, the guy is a fascinating character. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in '96. That's the 10th year. '86 was the first. So it's quite early on, '96, to be inducted in. So obviously he was, extremely well rated by then.
Yeah,
and probably an opportunity for some music, Tony.
Indeedy. So what we've got is Ricochet, and which Let's Dance album, and then we've got White Light, White Heat, and a bit of Tin Machine.
Like weeds on a rock face, waiting for the sign. Ricochet, ricochet. The world is on a corner, waiting for jobs. Ricochet, ricochet. Turn the holy picture so they face the wall. March on flowers, march on dimes. These are the prisons, these are the crimes.
And with what use, while thousands are still asleep, dreaming of tramlines, factories, pieces of machinery, mine shafts, things like that.
March on flowers, march on dimes. These are the prisons, these are the crimes. Sound of thunder, sound of gold, sound of the devil breaking parole. Ricochet, it's not the end of the world. Sound of thunder, sound of gold, sound of the devil breaking parole. Ricochet, ricochet. These are the prisons, these are the crimes, teaching life in a violent new way. Ricochet, ricochet. Turn the holy picture so they face the wall.
I'm not there to be forgotten. I'm not there to be forgotten.
March on flowers, march on dimes. These are the prisons, these are the crimes.
Early, before the sun, they struggle off to the gates. Their secret, fearful places, they see their lives unraveling before them.
March of flowers, march of dimes. These are the prisons, these are the crimes. Sound of thunder, sound of gold, sound of the devil breaking parole. Ricochet, it's not the end of the world.
Right like going, this is the fine line. I'm so know it's gonna make me go blind. Oh, why he did tickle me down to my toes? Oh, have mercy, why not have it through the nose? Why like on this of my brain? Oh, why like this gonna drive me insane? Oh, why did it tickle me down to my toes? Oh, why like I said now, goodness knows, do it. I surely do love watch that stuff till it's up in. Watch that side, no it's not gonna be dead and right. Dead Foxy Mama walking down the street. Come upside your head, gonna make your headache on the street. While I'm moving near, be my friend. While I gonna make you go insane. What's in the head kids and the toilet bowl. Don't see supremacist hate. Right-wing dicks in their boiler suits, picking out who to annihilate. Toxic jungle of oozy trails. Tribesmen just wouldn't live here. Fascist flair is fashion too. With your dead, you just ain't buried yet. Under the guard.
Very political, that one, isn't it? Really, it's got quite a
Touch,
bite to it.
yes.
Quite a bite to it. That quite a
Yeah, it's
political
very
song.
different sound for Bowie.
Yeah,
And he was just a singer in a rock and roll band. I mean, if you,
yeah. Well,
see,
Hunt
you
and
saw them on
Tony's-
stage,
Hunt-
there was no
Hunt and
stage
Tony-
show as such.
No, it wasn't. It was just Hunt and Tony Sales and
It was
whoever
just
the
a four
guitar
of them.
player was, and
Yeah.
and David. Yeah. They were good.
Interesting.
They
And
were
it was
very good.
really well received, that first album.
Yeah.
But,
I had the vinyl back in the day when I was allowed
Yeah.
such frivolities. So we are at the end of reality now, which is where we reach an end point. We have to reach an end really, because otherwise we just carry on. So I don't know, Jason.
That's a very philosophic thought, mate.
It's very
Yeah.
soliphistical.
Is life a
yeah.
circle?
Soliphistical, yeah. So no, hopefully anyone who's been out there, and I know people are out there because they won't be in here because it's too hot in here. They've got to be out there, out there airing themselves in many parts. So Jason, are you going to strum us one more thing before we move to the last three songs?
No, I wasn't playing to. I was playing along with the last song.
Ah, I see.
Of course,
That's
we
all right then.
understand them if I know how they fit together. And
I put
Yeah.
something in the chat though that
Right, got it.
I don't know if you've seen it. It's a link to Nirvana playing the David Bowie song, because a lot of people think to David Bowie through Nirvana, which is
Yeah.
bizarre, but that's the first time they heard it. And
Okay.
and so yeah, I just thought that might be a nice thing to just finish on it, because it
We can
a whole
do
other
that.
generation,
We can do this. Yeah, no.
a whole other generation to liking Bowie through Nirvana.
Yeah, let's have a little listen to this, and then we've got the last couple of sections. So the man who unplugged the world live in 1993, unplugged MTV.
Before pre Kurt Cobain.
No, it is Kurt Cobain, isn't it? Absolutely
superstar.
superb.
Really good.
I mean,
Brilliant.
Amazing, isn't it? Amazing. And so many
This-
people.
yeah.
It's quite interesting because my daughter got into Nirvana. She's just turned 20, and it's like they'd never heard of it. It's like we were not there at the time. I'm the same age as Kurt Cobain, but then through Nirvana to hear the David Bowie song, and that's like that triple fallback generation thing to get to that. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, but that was top quality, proper musicianship and singing, that wasn't it? I
Oh,
mean,
and the guitar playing was amazing as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, you
That
go
was a
back to
great
when
version of
Nirvana first came over, and basically, I mean, they were playing in clothes covered in sick.
Oh,
The clothes they'd worn literally for the whole tour, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Dadaism of fashion, wasn't it?
Yeah, and no, definitely, yeah. But no, great shout out. Anyway, listen, we really must get to the end, and then next week we're going all Clamperechwell clinical into silly
Oh.
next week, in any form, way, shape, or yes. So if you want to be Prince Charles and be installed as a monument in Carnarvon
put your
Castle.
family in because I'm a great Max Boyce fan. So I suppose
Max Boyce from the Valleys. Actually, I did a quick bit of research about Welsh music, and there's a really interesting long-serving Welsh folk group, Ardog. I'm going to dig out some of their stuff because they sound quite interesting. They obviously only wanted to sing and play in Welsh. Obviously, quite obviously.
And why shouldn't they?
Yeah, no, definitely. But they all play. A lot of them play harps. The harp is a big feature in Welsh.
In Wales, yes, it
in
is.
Welsh music.
Yes, in Welsh music it is.
And there's
Exactly.
two types of harp. There are two types of harp.
Yes.
There's there's probably more than two, but there's two types of harp used in Welsh folk music. But I do think either Paul or Gibbo needs to do some Dylan Thomas. I think we need a bit of Dylan Thomas next week. Gibbo's asleep again. He's muted himself so we can't hear him. What's he like? We can't lip read what you say because it's
What you
always
say,
rude.
mate? Now
It's
you're
always rude, Brian. You're muted.
Yeah.
We can't lip read what you say. We can't repeat that in public. You're unmuted. That's better. We can now hear you. Don't say what you said when you were muted. 'Cause it
I didn't
looked,
know.
It definitely looked vulgar and rude, all that, what you were saying. It's either that or I've had too many beers. I've had 3 tonight, which is double my limit.
Have you? Oh, dear.
You told me that you don't drink.
No, I don't drink a lot. I had three.
Well, you do drink. Obviously, you do. You said to me, "I don't drink.
No,
I
no,
just
did-
drink black currant juice and
No, lime
lemon
and
juice."
soda. Lime and soda. No, I had three bottles of beer for £5,
Did you?
which is quite cheap, really. Because I mean, it cost me
It
£5
is.
for one
I didn't
pint
know
last time.
beer
I went
So
out.
somebody lent you a £5.
No, I picked it up out. This fella dropped it out of the car, and I just picked it up.
Well done, Erdinger. Erdinger.
Oh, Erdinger's all right, yeah. No, this was Staraperman, some Prague lager, Czechoslovakian lager, Slovak.
Are you going to have a
lager.
drink tomorrow when you come to mine, Tony?
No, I'll be driving, so I'll be on Earl Grey or
Well,
something like that.
I've got Earl Grey. I've got all kinds of tea.
Love me Earl Grey.
Oh.
Big Earl Grey fan. Really, I'm a big Earl Grey fan.
Really? Oh, I'll give
Yeah.
me some Earl Grey tea
No, I
then.
love a bit of Earl Grey. So anyway, Uncle Derek, we are at the end.
Uncle
We're at
Derek.
the last 3 songs.
Wonderful.
The heart
Wonderful,
attack, the heartache of death.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
right.
legacy, really.
Yeah, we're very much at the end game now. 2003, he had a number 3 album with Reality. And then a few months later, he had a heart attack while he was on stage in Germany. And his next album didn't appear till 2013, the next day, a good 10-year gap. And then we come to Lazarus, basically. He made his last public appearance in New York on the 7th of December, 2015. That was obviously a successful single for him. And his final album, Black Star, again took him to the top of the charts. But what's really interesting is just before his death, I mean, he died on the 10th of January 2016. Uncut Magazine, on the 1st of January issue, 2016, released a chart of the 200 greatest albums of all time. And Bowie had 7 albums in that chart. To put that into context, the Beatles had 6, Dylan had 5, Neil Young 4, Stones 4. And what I thought was great was the Velvet Underground had 4. They only released 4, maybe 5 albums. So I was impressed when I saw that. But it was interesting. I mean, Bowie had an awful lot. I think Lazarus was Black Star, I think, was the 26th studio album, whereas the Beatles had like half that number. So it's difficult to make straight comparisons. But it certainly shows how rated Bowie is. And just a quick one, the chart entries on the chart, the UK chart, the week after he died, the new entries for 19 albums and 13 singles.
Wow.
I mean, awesome
amazing,
stuff.
Amazing.
Wow.
That's we're going to be ending with quite a sort of prophetic song, really, called from the album Reality, called Never Get Old, which I think in a way says a lot about Bowie anyway.
Absolutely.
I don't think he ever looked old.
No.
And I think certainly he would have been one of these people that never wanted to get, old and grey and past it and retire and fade away. And then, like you say, there's the album I've never heard the next day. I know nothing about it, but there's a song you've picked called Where Are We Now? And again, Black Star, I've only actually heard Lazarus and Black Star. I've never heard the whole album, but you've picked Lazarus, which I think is and will be the epitaph that says Bowie comes back and he will rise again and always will do. He is a universal voice and a universal force and a universal music, and he will always be there. And that's something that not everybody who's been there for a period of time can say. I mean, I do actually wonder, bar the fact the film's coming out, do people know who Elvis is, and do people listen to and remember Elvis? You know, I don't know anyone who ever mentions that.
I think he's greater than the sum of his parts.
Yes, I think you might be right with that. Yeah, yeah, that might be true. Anyway, folks, we are genuinely on the end of the wind
On the
down.
cusp.
So next week it's all things Welsh or Wales. You know, if you do want to play, you know, I'm going to
some stuff
find
I can do.
some Dylan Thomas, you know, and
I'm going to send you something.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah,
Because I'm going to send you David Ewan singing Emo Hyd, which
Yeah.
is a Welsh anthem.
Oh, I mean, the one thing genuinely about Welsh singing is, I mean, it sounds beautiful. You know, literally, even if you can't understand it, it sounds beautiful. So we're gonna have a fine old time next week. Whether we play Shirley Bassey or not, I don't know. And the Manic Street.
I hope
Preachers-
so. No, Tiger Bay.
And the Manic Street Preachers, I don't know if they'll feature, but Jason and Heather, you know, you've got a week to think of Wales.
Great to see you guys. Great to see
I
you.
think nothing can learn Welsh in that quickly.
No, you don't have to learn Welsh. You can just you can, like I do, you can lip sync.
Well, I'm about 40 miles off the Welsh borders, so I
Yeah.
suppose I'm the closest of all.
Yeah.
And,
Indeed, yeah.
and it's before I go away as well, because I'm having.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, I know Brian's got connections to Wales because I'm sure you've told me stories about Wales when I've chatted to you. I'm sure you've been adventuring in Wales.
Come in, Gibbo.
I can't remember, Tony.
Oh God! Have you,
No,
you've
we
had
went
two
on our-
pints and I've had 3 bottles.
No, we went
between
on our
us.
holidays when we was younger on Welsh
I
Welsh
thought
farms.
you. I was going to say, yeah, that
Yeah, we did
yeah,
that. If that's what you mean, yeah.
And Macca, of course, will have to delve.
I'll have to
delve
dig
into-
something out, yes.
And I used to wander off on my own. I'd say to my mum and dad,
Well,
and I'd go walking up the mountain by myself, take a little pack of food, and I'd just disappear.
Yeah. I would imagine
And-
Macca will tell us stories of Colum Endy.
Just very, very quickly before you do ring up.
Yeah,
My dad moved from Oldham to North Wales, got a Welsh passport, but we took Jason over to Rhyl, and he said, "What are all the people on the beach doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "They've all got the chairs with the backs to the sea." Because they're facing the sun. He'd only ever seen southern coast, people on the south coast.
in Bognor.
Bognor pointing towards the sea where the sun was. And in Rhyl, they all have their backs to the sea because they want to sunbathe.
Oh, that's classic, yeah. Oh, brilliant. I'm
When
going
the
actually
Rhyl-
talking to Wales. He doesn't join us, unfortunately, Ian D. Hall, a friend of ours, but he's
What a
having
great shame.
he's having a nostalgic trip to Llandudno in a few weeks' time. His poor dad's got Alzheimer's dementia, and he's really going rapidly downhill, sadly. And Ian himself's wheelchair bound, and his wife's not got the best mobility. But
Yeah, that's going to be
no.
some trip.
Oh, yeah, but no, I'm driving Judith and Ian to Llandudno in a couple of weeks' time, and Ian's mum and dad are getting the train up from wherever they live, somewhere near Dudley and South Birmingham way. They're getting the train up to Llandudno, and they're going to have a week just nostalging and letting Ian sit with his dad, play crib, and chat to his dad, which is going to be quite.
Played crib for years.
Oh well, we with Sally Ann and 2 other friends and I, we play canasta and bridge and crib every Wednesday night. We have an after school card club.
Oh,
Yeah, and we play bridge, canasta, and crib. Yeah, and bezique as well. Yeah.
Okay, my grandfather got his Sunday dinner delivered as a card school.
Yeah. No, we have a fine old time. I mean, gets quite competitive, after a while, just playing cards. So, as ever, a huge thank you to Derek and to all of you,
Thank
and
you.
to anyone who's out there. So we're just going to have 3 quick blasts of wonderful music. And
Before we do that, Tony, just one quick
carry on,
question
Paul, yeah.
to Derek.
Sorry, mate, go on.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the whole evening, but to my disappointment, you only mentioned my favourite Bowie moment once.
Go on.
Right.
A single word.
Oh.
the film Labyrinth.
Oh yeah,
Which
yeah.
I think is the best thing that Bowie ever did.
He,
And I
he
wonder
was
if I could
brilliant
ask
in
you,
it.
Derek,
Yeah.
you think he got a kick out of being able to play the bad guy? Because he seemed to enjoy himself very much as the Goblin King.
Yeah, very much.
It was just a thought if he's the sort of character who enjoyed playing the bad guy.
I hate to tell you this, Paul, but there's a rumor of a remake.
Nobody else can play that role.
Yeah, there's a rumor of a remake. Yeah. I mean, they remake everything, don't they? I mean, you know, I just hope when they redo the Bible story, they use the Spike Milligan script.
Yes.
Yeah. If you've not read it, Spike Milligan did some absolutely stunningly clever, funny pastiches.
They're
and one
so
of them was
good,
his
aren't
version.
they?
They are just to die for. They really are.
Amazing.
His version
Wonderful.
of the Bible as told by Spike Milligan. It's up there in the pretty much all of the stuff he wrote, really. I mean, you know, he was beyond mad, really.
Oh, he was terrific.
My favourite author, I think, definitely.
Yeah, I think
terrific
so. I mean,
author.
Douglas Adams did rather well, but only on a genre, really. Milligan did it all the time, didn't he? You know, he's all his poetry is brilliant.
I love the fact
Hitler might pass in his downfall, and
I love the fact that he rang up one day. He rang up the chief executive of United Dairies because his milk was late.
Yeah.
And he rang him up and he sang "Hey Jude."
Yeah.
Da, 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 and did that.
Where's
for
me
like-
milk?
And did that for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you ever see a speeding milkman, the milk is pasteurized.
Hey,
Very good.
I don't wish to know that, Joe. Can you leave the stage?
Yeah. Anyway, let's have.
You
let's
have a
the
look
last.
at all those things.
If only I was allowed to sit down on my own in a dark room. Yeah, I've got enough of them. I should just write them down, shouldn't I? Really? Yeah.
You should.
Yeah. No. Other people have said so. It's that motivational time thing, isn't it? It's saying to yourself, you're going to sit there and do something. Yeah. I mean, my big thing now, I've got 6 weeks off, is to get back to my ukulele lesson. I was really enjoying.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and I was really enjoying it. I haven't played since December, so you know.
I must confess, you frightened the life out of me at a phone call at 9 o'clock this morning. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, well, I thought it was 10 o'clock, so you must have not
Well,
put the clock forward.
Might have done, but yeah, you frightened the life out of me.
Yeah, well, it's rarity that I'm allowed to make phone calls, really, because I don't normally pay my mobile phone bill. Anyway, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Tony, fantastic, mate.
We've
Thank
got
you
3
so
minutes, so
much.
we've got
Thank you,
3
everyone.
minutes. So
Thank
we've
you.
got
Thank you,
3 minutes, a minute each of 3 fabulous songs. David Bowie, a true genius, sadly long gone now, and so missed.
Think about the car, better get a room, better take care of me. I think about this and I think about personal history. I breathe so deep when the movie gets real, when the star turns round. Looks me in the eye, says he's got his mind on the countdown. 3, 2, 1, forever. I'm saying that I'm gonna be living until the end of time.
had to get the train from Potsdamer Platz. You never knew that I could do that, just walking the dead. Sitting in the jungle on Nürnberger Straße, a man lost in time near Cardiff, just walking the dead. Look up here, I'm in heaven. I've got scars that can't be seen. I've got drama, can't be stolen. Everybody knows me now.
I mean, it goes quite jazzy, doesn't it? In a
Very
subtle
much so,
way.
yes.
It's almost
Yes.
like, you know, he ends up being the serious musician in a way. You know, not that he wasn't, because he was all the way through. But and that Where Are We Now? I have heard it before actually. I just didn't remember it really. And Never Get Old it's like a reworking of some of his other stuff, isn't it? It's got a sort of familiarity.
And I wonder, is he trying to find himself in those pieces? Those pieces
Don't know.
he played?
Don't really know. I mean, I'm unlike Derek, who does all the research and knows this stuff like Andy does. I think a lot of us, certainly I'm guilty of this. We only know the top 10% of what people are about and what they did, don't we? Really. Anyway, listen, guys, we must end things. Not just because of the time. I haven't got to get up in the morning. Others of you might. But you know, and it doesn't matter as such that we are still going out live. But you know, I think, one way or the other, there has to be a point where we say thank you, good night, and God bless, really.
And we wish you well. You've had a difficult week, so
Yeah.
we wish
Oh,
you well.
look,
So
the cats joined them again. Yeah. Do you know
Oh.
that back in 1976, people used to shave their cats and dogs to stop them from getting hot? It's true.
Yeah.
But it only got to 37.4 in 1976.
41 for
It's only
us.
41.
41, wow.
That's a record. Was it 39.8 in Cambridge?
38, that was near us as well in Cambridge, but
Cambridge, yeah, it was
must be
39 or whatever,
41.
wasn't it? Yeah.
We'll be hiding away in one room.
Yeah.
We have got an air conditioning unit, thank goodness. But
we had a holiday. We went because my ex-wife was a teacher. We only ever could go away in like July, August, and we went to Spain, Turkey, Greek islands, and it was like 45 degrees when we went somewhere. You almost felt, you did genuinely feel like your eyelids were going to melt out of your head.
You can't do anything when it's that hot, can you?
No,
You
not
still
much,
wearing
not
false
much.
eyelashes, Tony?
I think I needed a side bottom
plastic
head, I
one.
tell you. Yeah. But where did we? I can't remember where it was. We went somewhere with. We took the kids to see I think it was a crocodile park of all things. It was one of these places where you can see crocodiles and alligators up close. Sadly, one of the keepers there got his arm bitten off a week after we went.
Whoops!
Yeah,
Oh,
seriously,
wow.
yeah. Well, they did do stupid things like they'd prod them with a long stick, and they go, "Shah!" So apparently he prodded one with a stick about a week after we'd been there, and turned round, to show off to the audience. And this crocodile or alligator, whatever it was, just because they can move quick, it just carried on, jumped up, bit his arm off, this poor bloke.
Could have nightmares tonight now.
But wherever we were, we decided to save money by walking back to the hotel, because on the map it only looked like it was about 20 minutes, and it was about 2 hours.
Oh,
It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. I'll tell you
but
my
tremendous credit to Derek tonight as well.
Oh, yeah.
A fantastic show.
I know, unbelievable, unbelievable.
Fantastic show, mate.
I shall tell you my Brad Pitt story next week. I spent
You know
2
what?
weeks-
Do you always remind me of him?
I did. I spent 2 weeks impersonating him in
Well,
Spain
yeah,
one
you
year.
do. You've got to look at Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I did 2 weeks. You think I'm making it up, folks, but I spent
No,
2
I
weeks.
don't.
I spent
saying-
2 weeks with people going around the resort we were in, saying "Hola, Brad Pitt," and the people in on the joke. It was
Brilliant.
hilarious. All these random other holiday makers going, where's Brad Pitt? I'm not kidding. I had people crowding. It was 10 years ago or 12. I had people crowding around me, pretending to take photos and get autographs off me. And there's got these other people looking over, going, "It can't be. It can't be Brad Pitt." And it was hilarious. I'll tell you it properly next week, because genuinely, time is now creeping upon us, isn't it? So, Derek, marvelous.
you.
Well done,
Derek,
mate.
what
You
are
did
you
a
doing next
super
month?
effort, mate.
Derek, I've forgotten what you're doing next month. What are you doing next month?
Elvis, funnily enough. It's the
Elvis.
anniversary.
Hey!
Yeah, I've got to go and watch the film with my dad, haven't I? I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen it.
Oh, it's meant to be
It's
brilliant.
very
Yeah,
very 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. I think
Oh no, I've heard it's
promoters, the producers had a serious agenda with the film.
Yeah, no, I've heard that it's meant to be good. So no,
But
we're
I mean,
doing
the acting, the
Mm.
music, the production's fantastic.
Yeah. So Jason, you best get learning a bit of rock and roll and a bit of rockabilly for next month. So Welsh music next week, in or not in Welsh. Any language will do.
I
really,
can sing
'cause
the anthem.
no one would know if you weren't singing Welsh. So you can sing it any way you want, really. Yeah. And and then we'll do something after that. No. Next week's Wales. The week after that, there won't be a show because I'm at a wedding in Corby. My cousin's getting married, so there won't be a show the week after. There won't be a show the week after.
I'm away that week. I'm away that week.
Yeah, no, I am. We've got a cousin. I've got a wedding down in Corby. So Welsh songs and words. and
Corby.
music. Corby.
Explain
yeah.
that. Explain that to people who don't know where it is. It's in
No one knows where it
Northamptonshire.
is because it's in Northamptonshire.
Full of
It's an old
Glaswegian.
steel. It's an old
Just look out for the steelworks.
steelworks place, and it's just it's like Skelmersdale on a big scale, really.
It's
just
the only place that has a direct bus route between itself and Glasgow because of all the steelworks. that we've
Yeah,
done.
exactly. Yeah. So my mum's brother moved there. He was in charge of the bus. He was the main man behind the bus
Right.
service. He was the chief controller of all the bus routes. Yeah. But he also had lots and lots of children. I think how many are there? I think there's 9 of them. 3 different wives. One of them was a Benny Hill girl, believe it or not. Seriously, true. Yeah, it's true. It's all true. And they came up to visit me, mum and dad, and indeed me and my brother at the time. There was a knock at our front door, and we opened the front door, and there was no one there, or rather there was. And we looked down, and there was Kenny Baker. He didn't have the R2D2,
Wow.
but it was Kenny Baker. and he'd come to visit Carrie, my step aunt, I suppose you'd call her, because she was the second or third wife. At least second, she might be in the third. But yeah, so I'm going to meet up with all my cousins. And the problem is, we don't see them very often because we're not that connected as a family. And the thing is, they all know me because I'm quite easy to get to know. You know, I am me. And they'll all talk to me and I'm thinking, are you Ben or Michael? Or you know, I don't know who any of them are. I'll just have to constantly nod and pretend that I know who they are. And then you've got to try and remember the silly thing of one of them was not with the mum that the others were with, but thought he was with the mum that the others were with.
Oh dear! Oh dear!
Anyway, we're not going into the full details.
No,
We're still
no, don't
going
do
out
it.
live.
Don't do it.